Cool. And what about here? Let's Just want to make sure this is all coming through. Okay. Forgot I'm gonna have to hit up everybody on the Discord. Is this coming through? Yep, great. So let me actually switch over to just webcam and chat. There we go. Okay, I'm just gonna stay here for a sec while I let everybody know on Discord. Let some people come in if they're already catching the stream from whatever notifications you might be coming through on Twitch or YouTube. I'm gonna go to announcements and going to edit this and this, copy and escape. Bad Tunes says, hey Steven, what's up Bad Tunes? How's it going? How's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just popping in a notification on the Discord really quick. So just give me a second. I'm gonna say this: Memories, the Spy, mini devlog stream. Okay, and putting this in. And I think we're good on that. Send now. Okay. Square Pig, hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are y'all doing? How are y'all doing? I think I'm ready to go. I think we're just about ready to go. So I'm gonna change back to this. Wait, let me go to this window that I have and change this. Boom. Okay. So, how's it going, everybody? Airports are done. They've been done, or they've been there. It's funny because you know I've been putting out these videos, these edits of streams of me modeling the airports. All those streams were from 8 months ago, so those have been done for a while, and there's been things added. There's so much has happened since then. Noah, yo, what's up, Noah? How's it going? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. But it's funny, yeah, because everybody's seeing these videos that I edit. These stream, they're kind of like stream highlights, you know. I'm just like editing these things from like 8 months ago, only because it was like a little series, and I thought that'd be nice to have a sort of wrap up video towards the end to show how they're coming along in game and stuff like that. That's not today. That's not today. Today I have something very different in store for you. Today is an idea I've had for a while where it's sort of an informal devlog, a mini devlog, Memories of a Spy, mini devlog that I'm going to do through the stream. And specifically, I'm going to be doing it through going through a selection of Twitter posts. So if you see, I don't know, what do you guys see right now, actually? Is this what you guys? Yeah, okay. So if you can see up here at the top of the screen, I have a ton of tabs open. And these are all a series of tabs that are all tweets related to the progress of Memories of a Spy since sometime last year. And so I figured for anybody who's not following me on Twitter, who doesn't hang out on Twitter, or even if you do hang out on Twitter, there's going to be a little something more for you today, here too today. A little something more for you as well today. If you don't hang out on Twitter, though, you're going to see me kind of go through these things that I've shared there that are like little updates and kind of behind the scenes of Memories of a Spy. And if you do follow me, though, the little extra that I'm talking about will be that I'll just kind of go a little bit more in depth. I'll have a little bit more to say about these tweets because, you know, obviously in a tweet, you're just showing some pictures, maybe a video, and then you have your character limit. But I thought it'd be cool to kind of go through these things and share a little bit more of my thoughts or a little extra fun tidbits about whatever that tweet is talking about. So even if you do follow me on Twitter, hopefully there'll be some cool things that you find out today too. Maybe learn a thing or two, hopefully even just have a good time. Or at the very least, get you all hyped for Memories of a Spy because I've been hella hyped on it lately. It's coming along super well. It's really quite silly, this game. And yeah, so I'm just excited to share these things. I have watched some of your airport streams. Right on, nice. Yeah, I mean, I feel that very soon I'll probably be doing that stream that will be a summary, sort of showing off what they look like in game and stuff like that. I think I may have even done a stream where I showed them in engine, but it was very rough. It was very rough around the edges. I've since sort of like cleaned them up, off stream, and yeah, just made them look good and made them kind of function and stuff in the game. So I'm excited to share that too. That's not today. Today we're gonna go through these tweets. Okay, so hopefully everybody's still here, and hopefully some more people have come in. If not, tell your friends to catch the VOD later. Oh, Noah says, I'm Fuse. How's it going, Noah? How you doing? Long time no talk. I know. I dip in and out. I'm like the absent father figure. I'm the shitty brother who ran away from home. I'm the one who just kind of falls out of your life and then comes back whenever it's convenient for me. To all of you, it's probably going to be, let me see, was it 10:59 right now? It's probably just going to be one more minute. Just give it one more minute for folks to come in if we can, and then we'll get going. So, by the way, if you don't follow me on Twitter, and you are on Twitter, then go ahead and do that. At Steven Scott Day. You can see right here. This is me. I am more sort of active here on Twitter as far as like little kind of tidbits. I don't do thorough, I don't go deep dives like I do on YouTube. YouTube's where you go for the proper devlogs and for, this kind of thing to really kind of get in depth to see what I'm working on. But Twitter is like, if you're a junkie and you just need a quick hit, then this is where you would go for those little snacks, little memories of a spy snacks, and other hopefully other things that you would be interested in. Okay, so let's go. So the first tweet that I have is now boarding DC to Morocco, and this is just a picture of the airport. So this is a picture of the airport when I brought it into Unity, and I dropped the plane in here. There's nothing even really here to see. I didn't even change the direction of the sun. It's a very flat image, but it's just sort of a little tease to show that, the airports are in, and I've been working on them. And when was this? This was August 26th. So ever since August 26th, I've been chipping away at getting these airports running in the game, here and there. Square Peg says followed. Right on. You're gonna get some juicy little tidbits. I'm surprised you still work on this as my projects come and go. It's a passion, man. It's a passion. I love this thing. Like, it's not like a tinker kind of thing. It's also not a business model necessarily. It's something I love very much. So, I'm going to keep working on this and give it the love and attention it deserves. So anyways, that's this picture. This is a little tease. What's next? Next we have, character controller makeover looking like a modern devotional piece. So, this is a little screenshot of the character controller from Memories of a Spy. If you don't know, in Memories of a Spy, there is a single entity, there's a single prefab, rather, that I use for both the player controller and the NPCs. And I call it the character, just character.prefab. And this is it. And it's the little stick figure that you've seen in a million things during the streams and everything. And I just thought it was funny because as I was kind of working on putting some new sensors in it, Sensor Toolkit 2, and a few other sort of, just sort of like collider and hearing vision, all those kind of things in it, it started to look like the what is it called? The Michelangelo thing. I forget what that painting is. It's nice and geometric. It looks very pretty. And it's very devotional almost. Even this is kind of like a halo. So that's what I'm talking about. It looks like a modern devotional piece. What's your core game loop? Oh man, the core game loop. It's hard to say because it isn't. I'm not making a game that's like particularly arcadey or gamey. It's kind of like asking what Project Zomboid's game loop is. You might say that Project Zomboid's game loop is to like loot, run, kill zombies, survive, something like that. You might say that that's what the game loop is. You might call Minecraft also might be something similar as like, collect resources, build, it's just kind of like it's a very like craft or survival kind of game loop. So in that way, Memories of a Spy is almost like a survival game. That's like totally inaccurate, but it's like, yeah, Memories of a Spy's game loop is largely about staying alive, because you still need to, it has all those elements of survival games where it's eating and drinking and keeping your energy up and all that. But also it's like relationship management, and the core game loop being sort of like collect intel. So it's like survive, collect intel, protect intel, and you're just constantly doing that. Laker Mouse says, dude, you're missed. Good to see you back in action. Oh yeah, I've been in action. I have a lot to share today. In fact, let's get on to the next slide here, actually. Show us recent gameplay. I'm begging you, so curious, please. No, not yet. And I'll explain why later. Okay, so next one. Here we go. ESRB and Peggy gonna love this one. So this is a screenshot of a template for the body part FSM on that the character prefab I just showed you. And right here it says has cavity. And if it has a cavity and you interact with it, I put a little option here where it's like you either take clothes or tickle butt. So if you interact with a body part, you press E on a body part, do you take the clothes from that body part, or are you touching the butt, in which case do you tickle the butt? And it's a dumb joke. There's not going to be butt tickling in Memories of a Spy. There probably should be, but I won't. I'm not going to put tickle butt in there. Anyways, this is just a stupid tweet. This is this is the kind of bullshit I write while I'm programming. So there's that one. Here we go. Yeah, probably shouldn't be able to do this. So in this screenshot, what you're seeing is the inventory system, where in Memories of Spy inventory system, you can put things inside of other things. So there's always like a sort of a value for like everything's like container size. Everything has like a volume by which you could sort of like a capacity that you could store things into. And I have a little sort of UI text that shows up that kind of that tells you kind of what you can and can't do as you're hovering items around. So if you pick up an object, if you click on an object and you're dragging it over and you're trying to put it on another thing, it'll tell you whether you can or can't do that. And in this case, I'm saying stash chocolate eclair into Walter PPK. And when you think about that doesn't, you can't, I guess you could actually. I was gonna say it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's stupid. You could get like a Walter PPK and say like take out the magazine and then like shove an eclair in there and like just mush it in, or like maybe pull back. I don't even know what the fuck you call that, but like just squish it into. You could stuff an eclair into Walter PPK, but you shouldn't be able to do that in the game. And so I was like, the system's working. The system's working perfectly fine. It's going like, okay, well, the volume overall, yeah, I guess you could fit an eclair into the Walter PPK, but I need to sort of put hard limits on some things. So yeah, right here it says stash chocolate eclair into Walter PPK. Should not be able to do that. I was like, fuck, that's kind of funny. Okay. See, sometimes I have to go through some of these comments because sometimes there's good things here in the comment section as well. Let's see. Laker Mouse is raffling, and Bad Tune says, "Love the devlogs. Keep making them." Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, the devlogs are a lot of fun to make. I'm gonna kind of like probably spread them out more. Like you saw, like there was nearly a year between those the sort of the big boy devlogs that are like half an hour long, But I do want to do things like the thing that you're at right now, the thing that you are watching right now. I feel like qualifies in some way as a devlog. It's kind of like, that's why I put mini devlog here, because hopefully it's kind of providing you with the same sort of intrigue that the devlogs do, but hopefully in a more regular kind of like regular and low lift, sort of low effort on my part kind of way. Because it's hard making those devlogs. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of time. This, I could just sit down. I could be like, hey, look at all these kind of things. And I could just kind of talk you through some of things. But yeah, glad you're watching the devlogs. Hopefully make some soon. Unproductive SWAT. Says, hi, okay, this is just like a bot. You are basically making an immersive sim. Square Peg, there are things that you will see soon enough that mention immersive sims. Yeah, and we'll talk about that today as well. Bamfew says, hi. What's up, Bamfew? Badass MF you. Bad Tune says, what game inspired you to make this game? No games inspired me to make this game in particular. I'll kind of talk about a little bit about like the collection of games that kind of maybe unconsciously inspired me, but it's mostly movies, and it's mostly something that I want to do. And there's tweets in today's stream, so stay tuned. One of these tabs will have an answer to that question. Okay, so for this picture though, it says hide in crowds, memories of spy, hide in crowds and memories of spy, sensor toolkit 2 available on the asset store. Okay, so this is me kind of plugging the sensor toolkit 2, but it's also like me doing something I've been looking forward to for a long time, which is, can I make this bigger? Maybe I could just do this. Yeah, so if you check this out, it's like you can see this NPC right here. He has the sensor toolkit sensor on here, and he's shooting out all these rays that are checking each limb of that body part. So in Memories of a Spy, what's happening is your visibility is based off of, the line of sight to however many like body parts you can see. So low visibility would be like you can only see somebody's arm, right? But high visibility would be like you could see both their arms, both their legs, their torso, but maybe you can't see their head, but you can see the rest of their body. That's still high visibility. So it's based off of how many body parts you can see, and also which body parts are slightly weighted, because if you can see the face, that kind of holds more value, right? Like if you could see a face, that could mean a little bit something more. I think there's like more, like the human eye kind of recognizes faces better, which is funny because there's not really any faces in Memories of a Spy. There's facial hair and lips and stuff, but faces are yet to be seen. Bad Tune says, can't believe this guy taught us how to use PlayMaker. Yeah, I'm still teaching. There's still stuff out here. I'm still making more. Steven, there was an old game from Looking Glass Studios called Deep Cover. While it never came out, the game design document did. I've seen this. So maybe about a year or two ago, I listened to NoClip put out a podcast talking about it, and I was like, oh shit. And I went online and I saw, I think we're talking about the same game. But yeah, I saw like a web page that sort of broke down all these screenshots and stuff like that. And there's some really interesting stuff in there. It's kind of like Memories of a Spy, a little bit. I think theirs takes place in like the 80s or something. But it's like, yeah, it's like a bunch of Cold War stuff. And it's, it's, to be fair, there's like, yeah, it's interesting. It's about as close as anybody's come to making something that I kind of want to do, but even theirs is like, it's kind of on the rails. It was going to be an immersive sim, so there's like cool little like, oh, like how can I kill this enemy type of things, but the rest of it was scripted. From what I understand, it was very scripted. There was like a storyline and stuff like that. That does not exist in Memories of a Spy. Memories of a Spy, it's all systemic, like Dwarf Fortress. When you play Dwarf Fortress and you hear about like the king who fell from grace and fought his way back into the kingdom to win his people over, and then got married, and then lost his lover, got depressed, sought revenge, and had a son who sought vengeance for his father, and blah 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 blah. And it's like this huge epic tale. It's like nobody wrote that. Like Tarn Adams designed a game where that just naturally happens, and that's like a 1 in a million thing that can happen in the game, because the thing that can happen in the game is sort of just in your head. You're just you're perceiving narrative, even though he's intentionally built a lot of systems that would sort of like create that illusion. But anyways, yeah, so that game, Deep Cover, I think is what you're talking about. It looked cool. I was like, yeah, that would have been cool to play. Best game of all time for you. Ask me again in 15 minutes so I can keep going on with this. Systemic gameplay is my jam. Yes, me too. But yeah, so this is the sensor toolkit. And what's cool is if you just see, in case it isn't self-explanatory, you can see that like, you see how the tips of the ray casts here are blue, but as soon as they hit this middle guy right here, they turn red. And that just means that they're sort of invalidated, that we can't see past this guy. So you can see this guy over here, the one that we're looking at, the guy who's sliding left and right. he sort of comes in and out of view. He is like sort of obstructed slightly and then fully obstructed, and then at some point you could fully see him whenever he's like out of the way. And what this means is that in Memories of a Spy, there's a really systemic way in which you can hide in crowds. So like you have you have somebody chasing you or whatever, and you could run into a crowd and hopefully like make it a lot harder for them to pursue you, or even just hide behind another person. Anyways, yeah, so I was stoked on this. This is up and running. This is one of my favorite things in Memories of a Spy so far. Just wishlisted. Right on. Tell your friends. Let's get those wish lists up. I haven't been doing due diligence. I haven't been giving the proper love, is what I mean to say, to my wish list promotion stuff. So next tweet says, I didn't know what the fucking immersive sim was until I was a year and a half into making one. So here, this is too blown up now. This is me responding to a tweet that I saw from this person, Jack Chapman, and this picture right here says, remember, if someone suggests you make an immersive sim, don't listen. And the idea there is that they're like studio killers that everybody tries to make when it eventually gives up and it's too big, and you're trying to recreate life, and you're trying to simulate all this shit, and it's just like one of the hardest things to manage, and everything breaks, and it's just like it's just a death sentence to your motivation and your overall well-being, especially if you're a solo dev, right? It's like on a team in a studio, like you have a shot, but even then, like studios have gone down trying to make that shit. But one person, it's a death wish. So yeah, I mean I mostly agree, but also it's kind of like, if that's what you're stoked on, go for it. But anyways, I was replying to this saying I didn't know what the fucking immersive sim was until I was a year and a half into making one, because I never heard, or I may have heard that phrase before, but I never looked into it. I barely found out about it when NoClip made the Thief documentary. So that's what this tweet is about. It's funny because like I'm not sure if Memories of a Spy is an immersive sim. I think it balances sort of precariously on the common definition of immersive sim and just simulator. Because I think people who use the word immersive sim have a lot of ideas about what it should be, and I'm not sure I fall into that. I think I do. I fit well into the immersive sim community. It's a bunch of great people, and they kind of seem to be excited about what I'm doing. But I'm not sure I'm doing a purebred immersive sim. Okay, next tweet. I know that meme. Hopalicious Luke's gives a big old laughy face. Yes, it's a good one. It's a good one. So this tweet is sort of the end of a thread that I made, because people were doing this thing that says 10 games to get to know my soul so intimately that you can taste. Well, they didn't call it that. It was like 10 games to get to know me. I changed it to 10 games to get to know my soul so intimately that you can taste my metaphysical juices. And so I put all these games in here that I love. They're not necessarily my favorite games, like in an order or ranked, and there's a lot of games I'm leaving out that I might even play more than these or whatever. But at the bottom, I was like, oh, also Memories of a Spy. And it was a way to just plug my shit, but also like, I mean this sincerely. I've been wanting to like formulate a tweet like this without kind of sounding like an asshole, but it's also kind of to find camaraderie in people who might feel the same way, which is I've been wanting to say or kind of put out into the world like this idea that like I'm making Memories of a Spy because I want to play it so fucking bad. I'm making Memories of a Spy because literally, like, this is not me speaking colloquially. This is not me speaking figuratively. Like, multiple times a week, I will sit there scrolling through Steam, the Steam store, my Steam library, G2A, just G2A categories of games, YouTube of like lists of top X kind of game that has this, or top this Y, XYZ game that has XYZ elements in it, like whatever, top immersive sims, or like top open world games, or top dialogue driven games, or top spy games, or top, all these things that are sort of like kind of little parts of Memories of a Spy. I'm like constantly looking for them on all these sites and stuff. I go through Reddit, Googling that same search phrase, but then adding Reddit to the end to see if somebody's made a thread talking about games that'll kind of scratch this itch. I go through all these things, and I've searched high and low for these types of games, and just none of them do it for me. Just none of them are like, I'm just like, God damn, there's no game out there that like because I want to play it. I'm like, I just want to play this tonight. I don't want to think about work right now. I don't want to like, watch a movie, but I kind of wanted some alone time maybe. And I'm looking for a fucking game that'll scratch this itch, and I can never find it. And I've searched high and low. Sir, You're Being Hunted was a great game, great gem. Yes, it was. And so that's why I'm making Memories of a Spy. I sit there every time, and I'm not even kidding, man. I'm not kidding when I say that I've put myself to sleep scrolling through games and researching games and looking into games. Like, oh, this looks kind of fun. This looks like it might pique my interest. And just kind of like, it's already so late, and I'm just like, and not playing anything. I spent all this time looking for a game to play, and then I just go like, this looks kind of dumb, or this looks kind of boring, or maybe it's fine, maybe it's a good game, but I'm just not interested. And I go, well, like, it would be really cool that would totally scratch this itch is Memories of a Spy. So anyways, yeah, so that's what this is. This is me kind of putting this here at the end of this list of games that if you want to know my soul intimately, that you could taste my metaphysical juices, Memories of a Spy. And I just put up some pretty screenshots here. So bask in these for a second. This is the Consulate Inn. It's in DC. This is the Manu PD Lounge, also in DC. I forget what I named this hotel, but this is in Berlin. It's the hotel in Berlin. It's my working elevator system. And then this is GUM or GUM. I forget how you pronounce it, but it's like GUM. It's a department store in Moscow. And I think that's it. Okay, so that's what that is. Next tweet. I'll read these chat really quick. Immersive sim is one of the hardest and most brutal type of game to make, and this guy who didn't know what the fuck is immersive sim is now making one. What a story. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I walked right into that. I really it's kind of funny. You don't know what you're into until it's too late, right? But I don't see it as a bad thing. I'm excited about it. There's no game like Memories of a Spy in this galaxy. Yeah, there isn't, and it's driving me nuts. People, man, there's a lot of games coming out too that are like spy related, kind of pushing the 70s, 60s vibe. It's about disguise, but they're all like using gadgets. It's all like technology, and like there's this game that comes out. It looks fine. It looks like it could be fun, but it's like, oh, to disguise yourself, you press a button and it just goes, and it's like digital. It's like high tech, And that, I don't know, but for some reason I'm like really bored by like high tech spy stuff. And in games when there's a lot of like HUD and like automatic, like, oh, this tool does a whole thing for you. Yeah, not really interested in that. Shadows of Doubt demo was super fun to play. Yeah, Shadows of Doubt looks pretty good. It's like it is a lot of soft skills and a lot of reading. Even then, man, I support that. Let me just preface. I support fully Shadows of the Doubt, what it's doing, and I think a lot of people are going to love it. I think it's like fucking revolutionary in a way. I think a lot of people, it's going to like scratch an itch that they're going to find really hard to get anywhere else. I think it's doing something super specific in a super big way. That, yeah, it's going to kind of be like the only place you can get that. But again, it's just like, based off of watching like a lot of Let's Play videos and stuff like that, a lot of the systems are designed in ways where kind of like things are either done for you automatically, are kind of displayed in the UI, are sort of turned into information that like, because you can use computers in that game. You can kind of have like steps. I don't know how to describe this, but there's a way of interacting with the world where like you kind of have to go through the tedium of things, and video games tend to skip over that tedium. They kind of make things happen automatically for you. I think Shadow of Doubt, or is it Shadow of Doubt? That game, I I think it still does a lot of cool soft skills stuff, and it makes you think and put stuff together, especially since it's procedurally generated. But from what I could tell, the tools that the game gives you alleviate the shit out of that workload. And for me, that's kind of where I'm like, okay, this is kind of like other games then, where it's like it does a lot of the work for you. But that's not to say like you still have to have a lot of soft skills and pay attention. There's a lot going on in that game. Yeah, still different. So here we go. When you're just trying to get the airport simulated, but remembered you got to finalize the systemic/generic dialogue system to order from ticket agents. That's a mouthful. So what happened here is I was trying to make my airport, I was trying to get it up and running, trying to get like, because I built all these little pieces of the airport and these little side systems work and everything. But I was like, okay, let's kind of bring it all together and make it so I can order my ticket and hop on that plane and go to another city, right? Because I made all these other little systems and you just have to like click them together now. And one of the last things that would bring that all together is just going over to the ticket agent and being like, one ticket to this place, please. And then I realized, oh shit, like the old Memories of a Spy, when I was like prototyping stuff, you just interact with the ticket agent and like they just pop up this menu and you magically just get it. And nobody ever really like talks. It's just sort of like, it's just kind of like I was saying, you skip a step. In video games, there's always like a step that gets skipped where it's like, interacting with this person, it's like, to buy a ticket, a menu just pops up. You don't go, hello, and they don't go, hello, or they don't say next, sir, or like, or what can I get you? Or, oh, we're out of that or something. Like you could put those in as flourishes and stuff, but like in most games like that isn't needed. They just kind of like automatically give you the ticket and there's like infinite tickets, right? And that's kind of like how the old one, if you ever seen streams of how the old Memories of a Spy ticket system worked, I was able to just go buy tickets and, you ran out, but it kind of like, they had a maximum capacity and stuff like that. But now I'm like, fuck, dude. In this version, I have to buck up and make it so that you could talk to them and it's generic. It's like, I don't know how to do this. I feel like I'm going to get stuck on this trying to explain it to you guys, but look, I'll just show you. So you walk into the airport, right? This is the airport. This is a good picture. This is kind of a more updated idea of what the airports look like. This is the Paris airport. This kind of is with the sun actually coming in and stuff. It's still a little empty, still has some things to do. But overall, here's where the ticket agents would be. And if you walk up to somebody, this is a mock-up here. But essentially the idea is that you have these columns of dialogue and categories. In your first column, it's like it's the categories to choose from. So you have introductions, pleasantries, inquiries, favors, commands, right? And the second column is the options from that list. So like if I had introductions here, it'd say like, my name is, and then whatever your real name is, or you could say my name is, and then give an alternate name for all these different countries, right? Or cities rather. Or actually, yeah, countries. So it's very dynamic because like you could say lines of dialogue at any point in the game because there's very generic ways of speaking with people. Since Memories of Spy is like spy game where you're mostly just kind of like trying to collect information and exchange information, it's a lot of just like, where is this person? Or do you know this person? Or like, how do you feel about this person? Or where is this object? Or do you have this object? Or would you like this object? Do you want this object? And you should just be able to ask those things at any point, and then the person should be able to respond based off their personality and their relationship to the world and stuff, right? So that's how it should work at a ticket agent, right? If you're going to buy a plane ticket, I was like, okay, there should be some interesting way that you could just kind of like say hello, and then you can get this UI, and then when you try to use the cool UI that has all the little flight board stuff on it, that your character says what they want, and then the ticket agent hears what you said. Like you said, I want one ticket from DC to Berlin, right? And they hear that. They hear DC to Berlin, and then they produce a ticket that has that quality to it, but only after you pay. And there's like all this tedium in the transaction that you would have to do step by step in Memories of a Spy, where it's just like you take out the money, and it's if it's enough, then they'll take it and they'll give you the ticket. But if it's not enough, you hand them like a dollar or so less. They'll say, hey, this isn't enough. You need to pay the full one. And you don't get that in games. In games, usually it's just like when you buy something, the shopkeeper or whatever just looks at your money, like your little money variable, right? It's like, oh, how much money do they have? And it's like, if it's enough, they'll sell it to you. And you just kind of magically get it into your inventory, right? They never hand you anything. It just goes, boink, it's in your inventory now. And suddenly your amount of money just shrinks a little bit. Like it went from $10 to $5 automatically. And that money doesn't exist anywhere. It's just a number. That's how most games work, right? But in Memories of a Spy, it's like, you say, I want this. They say it costs that much. You have to take your money out and you have to give them that money. If it's enough, they'll give you the ticket. If it's not enough, they'll say this isn't enough. And then once they give you the ticket, then you could put it in your inventory. But when you go to the ticket agent and you're about to get on that plane, you have to take your ticket out again and show it to them. And that tedium, it sounds dumb and silly and like, I mean, it is all silly. It's a fucking video game. But like, some people might hear that and think it sounds like useless, or like, why do you want that? That just makes the game like harder, or, it's like, oh, okay, it makes it more immersive, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually a game mechanic. It's actually a fully functioning sort of like purposeful game mechanic. And what I mean by that is that like for a spy game, it makes a lot of sense. Maybe for some other games where that's not the context, that doesn't make sense. Maybe in some other game I'd make where you could travel on planes and stuff, maybe I do just skip through all this stuff. But for a spy game, the reason it's important is because in espionage, especially in the 60s, which is when Memories of a Spy takes place, the main fault in all operations, the only fault in all operations is the human error, is the mistakes that people make in the minutia of operations. Whenever a spy has been caught, it's because they said the wrong thing to the wrong person. It's because they were seen doing something that gave them away. It's because some small action in the whole big complex process of like espionage, some small action was the thing that gave them away, that either said they're not who they say they are, or they're going to be somewhere where I can catch them, or, like they're going to do something that like will let me prevent them from doing something, or they're going to be in a position that is vulnerable or whatever. And that's always shit like I was able to peek over the counter and see what city they were going to they were buying like a plane ticket to, or when they were taking a nap while they were waiting for their plane, I was able to take their plane ticket away from them, and all this sort of stuff. And even just like if you took out money if you were in like the UK and you took out like I think they're called Russian rubles. I think if you took out Russian rubles and you're like, oops, my bad, actually I'm supposed to be handing you British pounds. If somebody saw that, they'll be like, okay, this person has Russian rubles. They have some connection. They've either been to Russia or they are Russian or something, but this person has Russian currency on them. There's some tie to them. And that suddenly tells you something about their identity. So that type of minutia is now very important. It's very important that you don't slip up and accidentally take out the wrong currency, because that will tell somebody a little bit about who you are. And in a game about espionage, about being clandestine and all about like, preserving like the identity that you want to like kind of like let the world think you are, all those little things matter. Ramble over, okay? Because it's like it's kind of hard to for people to understand this, and it's like I kind of have to explain this unless you're actually playing the game. Because then when you play the game and somebody goes like, "You're not who you say you are because you were holding this kind of money," then they go, "Oh, duh, I can't do that. That makes sense. That's important." But nobody can play the game right now. I'm over here playing it, so when people see me like, "Dude, why are you designing like your system? Like, why do you have to say every line of dialogue independently, or why do you have to take out your money? That sounds kind of dumb and tedious." And it's like, yeah, it does sound that way when you don't realize how it fits into the larger context of things. Okay, so hold on, I gotta go back to some of these things. The old Mission Impossible 1966 to 1976 TV shows are a really good place to draw influence from in terms of gadgets, skills, etc. Yeah, some of those bits are really cool. for a while, I did listen to the Mission Impossible theme while I worked. Not too much, though, because it's a very short theme song. Yeah, gadgets, though. That we'll get into that another time. There's not a huge emphasis on gadgets in Memories of a Spy, and I kind of want to say that up front. There's going to be some cool shit for sure, but it's going to be more like of the realistic type gadgets that spies actually used, which is a lot of more surveillance stuff, putting in microphones and taking pictures and stuff. Did you play Jalopy? They have a different pay system, somewhat like yours. No, let me write that down really quick. 1 second. Jalopy. I will check this out. Jalopy game currency. That sounds interesting. Chambers, Steven, what's up, Mr. Chambers? How's it going, man? How you doing? Welcome. Haven't heard from you in a minute, man. How's it going? You held up the American 3 instead of the German 3. Aha, exactly. Yeah, that's the classic example I used to use for people. Is like, this. In case you don't know what he's talking about, this is. I forget which one's which. I think this is the non-German 3. I think this is the German 3. I forget which is which. But basically, depending on where you come from, there's a sort of culturally ingrained way in which you might display 3 when using your fingers. So that was like shown in Inglourious Bastards. But there's been plenty of other things too. I went to the International Spy Museum, I think that's what it was called. The Spy Museum in DC. So I went to DC some months back, went to the Spy Museum, really cool place. Showed the history of espionage. And there is like a whole little exhibit that talked about tea ceremony practices between different countries and how some spies were able to sort of like prove their innocence or even be caught because they're like, oh, we're going to have tea right now because it's noon. And then somebody's like, who the fuck are you? We don't have tea at noon in this country. Like, who are you really? And that gives them away kind of thing. So many things like that. It's really crazy. How do you draw the line between realism serving the experience and experience of the game and hampering it? That's a fucking great question. Cake Man, it is the question. And honestly, what it comes down to is I try to think how I would like that system to work in real life. And I try to think what that might feel like in the game. And what I mean like by feel is kind of like if I was playing this and I had to do this as regularly as I imagined to, like, oh, every time you buy something, you have to take out money and do this and that. How can you find the balance between still making those little moments happen while not making it I'll give you this example. So when I was designing the money thing, by the way, we'll get to this in just a second. Actually, you know what? Let me save that thought. Cake Man, bring up that question again when I get to the money bit, because there's a tweet in here that talks more about the money thing, and I think that'll be a perfect example. Well, I'll say on this last one because we need to get to next tweet because I'm rambling over here. Anyways, this is just a mock-up of the dialogue system, and this is me making the little slides for the flight board. Okay, next up is relearning English to make a simple generic dialogue system and finding out gems like this, probably 9-year-old student versus teacher. And it's just funny because like I'm learning English over here, relearning English and like how language works because I have to make my characters speak these languages and there's a lot of weird things in here. And in this example, I was like Googling sentence versus clauses. And there's just this kid going like, do I have to do this? And this kid was like, and this one guy was like, you don't have to speak like that, but you're going to kind of sound like an idiot if you don't. And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm making sure that my characters in Memories of a Spy don't sound like idiots and they sound like adults. Let's see. This is blowing my mind. I think everybody in this world have imagined this kind of gameplay in their life, right? This is the kind of thing that like you hear about like you and your friends talk about, right? Like you and your guy, like I remember being at lunch in high school at the lunch tables talking with my friends about like a zombie game that'd be so like, oh, and then like it's very detailed and you have to do this and this, and it's like nobody ever makes it, you know, because it's kind of an insane watermark, and it's kind of like a really hard design challenge. Like not even necessary, like it is a hard technical challenge, but I think it's an even harder design challenge for the question that Cake Man asked. Cake Man was asking about how do you draw the line between realism and sort of like how far do you go with realism without it hampering the gameplay and the experience. And I think that's why when we're kids, or even whatever, you could have been in college thinking about these kind of things too, or an adult rather, thinking about like this super detail oriented like simulated game. It's rarely that it crosses your mind that like just using a fucking mouse and your keyboard, or even just like, you know, whatever, a controller, is not the same thing as being able to use your hands, speak with your mouth, and see things with your eyes. There's a lot of, you know, there's a huge barrier between the experience of being a person that you can use your physical senses and touch and all that shit with, versus like the simulated one where like you know, you have to do all these button combinations to do something similarly, where it's like, oh, okay, like what if I just wanted to take this and go, you know, like in a game, it's like, okay, well, hold, and then it picks it up, and then tap it again to do this, and it's like, so nobody thinks about these things. It's a hard design problem. But yeah, you're right. People always talk about these things, they never make it. The people at Project Zomboid, they're fucking doing it. They're doing it. Project Zomboid made the game that me and my friends used to talk about in high school, where it's like, oh, and then you have to like, if you break in through a window, you'd have to like pick the glass out if you didn't fully take out all the glass, and it's just like, the Project Zomboid team did it. It's like, that's crazy. I was on the Twitch. I am now on the YouTube. Pinky out. What's up? I don't know if many people are here from Twitch. It's kind of funny. It is a huge difference. Like, I think all these little symbols mean that people are talking through YouTube. And I'm good, man. Busier than I'd like to be as usual. How have you been? I'm fucking great. I've been doing really good. It's been crazy lately. It's a good start to the year, and I'm glad to hear you're doing good, man. I like knowing that you're out there doing it. Rob Lang says, "Great to see you streaming. I'm watching while doing the dishes." Brilliant. I'm the background dishwashing. I can't tell you how many times I've had trash taste or the yard in the background while I've done the dishes. How's it going, Rob? Rob Lang, by the way, is also working on a really fucking cool game. For any of you, if you could see him in chat, I think you might be able to click his name to go to his YouTube channel. He does devlogs about it. Yeah, it's a really cool co-op game. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm not going to get into it right now, but you should just check him out. Yeah, Zomboid is crazy bananas. On the topic of realism versus... Okay, I'm going to get back to that in a second. Let me finish going through these. God, so many tabs. Like 75% of the time, developing an ImSim looks like this. And I say, account for these things, this and that. This is kind of a boring tweet. I'm going to skip this one. Where are the games that simulate soft skills in a systemic way, relying on reading a character, not balancing a spreadsheet, emotions, values? I'll just say this really quick, because I think I'm going to kind of talk about this more when I show you the kind of more cool and visual tweets. But it's just like, yeah, like there's a lot of games out there where like your relationships with people, your relationships with other characters are represented by like a number or a bar that slides up and down. And I kind of have a little bit of beef with that, because what you end up doing when you're playing the game is like, yeah, there are like little dialogue options that you can say that, you know, like it's actual dialogue. They'll say, hey, I love you, or whatever. Or maybe it's an even better written than that. Maybe it's not as stupid and simple as I love you. Maybe it's more complex and elegant, right? But the fact that it has a number next to it that says like +10 or -5, and then when you use it, it's like you see the number either shrink or grow for your relationship. My beef with that is that like your brain latches onto that, you know, like I should be using I statements. My brain latches onto that. But I think, even not speaking for myself, what I think gets lost there is the fact that you're displaying that information at all. The experience of what you're doing becomes balancing a spreadsheet. your behaviors are based on what you think that will do, not what you think that will do, but what you know it will do. When you speak to somebody in real life, it's not guaranteed that they're going to react with a positive or negative reaction, right? And so by putting a hard-coded number, positive, negative on it, that shows the player, this will do good for your relationship or that will do bad for your relationship, then it doesn't matter. You can skip reading the text, you know, like, it just doesn't matter. And what I'm more interested in is making a game where you don't get those numbers, and what you say to somebody can have a totally different impact on like how they perceive what you're saying, whether or not they like you to begin with. And like, you know, maybe this same line of dialogue, if you said it to one person, that would make them like you, but to another person, it would make them hate you. And I want that experience of seeing how people react to be more organic and to be witnessed firsthand by the person playing, by you, the person playing, because that is the sort of beauty and fun of getting to know people, of building relationships, of, you know, of living your life around other people. That is soft skills, right? And so I like this idea of you being able to bring everything that you as a person know and have experienced and bring it into a game, because then you don't have to relearn any rules or anything. It's just you take all the rules from real life and you can play them in a game. And yeah, I'm more interested in that instead of like having people throw dice and balance their spreadsheets and, you know, do little number calculations. It's just not, I don't know. So, Mr. Chambers just said, got in Trash Taste, love Sea Dog. Yeah, I fucking love Sea Dog. He's my favorite on there. He's the man. This is on top of actions such as reloading, crouching, going prone, leaning, etc. Oh, he was saying something else. On the topic of realism versus gameplay, in the game Red Orchestra Ostfront 4145, you would have to slide the bolt back on the bolt action rifle or attach the bayonet to use it. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's on top of actions. Yeah. Yeah. I think all that kind of stuff can be really interesting too. There's a line that, you know, again, it's like taste. Like I draw, like that game Insurgency, I think it is, has it like you load in each bullet into the magazine, and then you load it and then you cock it back and all that. Or I guess you don't have to, but you know what I'm saying? It's like they kind of have there is a lot of steps to just reloading a gun. I haven't played one that feels right yet. But I'm open to those kind of things, you know? Okay, so next tweet. Made an A-star pathfinding system 100% with Hutong Games PlayMaker. Time to send something to space. So if you don't know what the A-star path, or there's the A-star algorithm, and it's used commonly for pathfinding, but it could be used for other sort of, like, I guess, I don't know if you'd call it like branching data. Like, it's a way of like connecting one piece of information to another. And finding like the shortest link in like branching logic between those 2 points. So it's like, yeah, it's just like, it's like one of the most common pathfinding things. And yeah, so Unity has a built-in navigation system that actually does use A-star logic, right? Or the A-star like algorithm. The idea behind it is, I won't get into that right now, but like, but the problem is that the way it's implemented in Unity is completely limited to sort of like the surfaces of things, particularly like the surface of meshes. So it's kind of like you have all this geometry in your world, you know, like a building, a ground, and say like, I don't know, like a table and like a sewer plate or something, right? And the way you can kind of set like, okay, well, the building is not walkable, the ground is walkable, the bench is not walkable, and the sewer plate is walkable. And then you hit bake, and then what it does is it kind of like, if you can imagine putting a big blanket over everything, if it drops like a giant blanket, and then it kind of like pushes the blanket down on everything and says, okay, like where the walkable parts are, like that's where you can move like game objects around. And the non-walkable parts, they have to circumnavigate it. They have to go around it, and kind of like it becomes like a little hole in that big blanket, that big sheet that you drop down. It's like cutting out a part of the sheet. So you have these little kind of like islands of spaces that you can and can't go. So that's how it works in Unity. And the thing is that like that same pathfinding algorithm is used to do other things in 3-dimensional space that isn't limited to like a plane. It's like, you know, if Unity's trying to fix it to a blanket, that means it can only ever be on the blanket. Even if the blanket can have high peaks and valleys and all this kind of stuff, it's still limited to like the surface of one thing, which isn't very helpful if you're trying to make, say, like fish or birds or spaceships swim, navigate 3 dimensions, sort of like the 3rd dimension a little more independently, right? Because the current nav mesh system that Unity uses, like, yeah, it can go up and down and left and right, backward and forward and everything, but it's mostly limited to sort of 2 of those planes, because the point where you start like stressing or sort of extending that 3rd dimension on it, it can be a little, it doesn't suit well to that. It's not well suited for that. So there's other things, like there's on the Unity asset store, the A-Star pathfinding system, like kind of package that somebody made that kind of lets you do all those little proper, just fully in space and like between little points and this and that. It's like, it's more, it's a broader system that somebody made. And there's a lot of people who are using that kind of like home baked things. I think even Rob actually, yeah, right here. So, and this is exactly what I was going to get to. I do the same thing in my game. Oh, wait, no. Oh, no. Well, I think I'm pretty sure Rob uses A-Star in his game. And I think it's sort of a homebrewed one, or I'm not sure what it is, but I think he also uses sort of by like nodes. There's kind of like nodes that are sort of systematically placed into the world, and then his AI can sort of navigate between these things. So to kind of bring this to the tweet now, if I can kind of, now that you kind of have that, is that I just went like on this deep dive of like what even is A-Star. I didn't really know in the past, because I really wanted to do sound propagation, because people use sound propagation to sort of like, you know, if I like clap my hands, if you're right behind me, you can hear it. You can hear it just fine. But if I clap my hands and you're down the hall behind 2 doors, you can't really hear it, right? It'd be a little bit more muffled. But if I clap my hand and you're down the hall and both of those doors are open, you'll still probably hear me, even if you can't see me and you can't even see my hands because it's a little windy hallway or whatever. The fact that there is no actual physical objects between us means that there's sort of a clear path by which the sound can travel through the air. So people use pathfinding to simulate sound propagation sometimes. It's not super common. It was like used a long time ago, and then some people are starting to use it again recently. And yeah, that's how A-Star can come in, because A-Star could be like, okay, well, like, you know, you could put like a little node here by the window, node by your door, node in your room, and then whenever a sound happens, you can sort of just check like, hey, between me and the person down the hall, can like I make a direct line to that node, 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 and make a chain of nodes without anything being in between them. And if I can, then they can hear it, and they can hear it maybe a little less clear because it's far, but they can at least still hear it. As opposed to if the doors were closed, then if this was your door and you had a node right here and a node right here, then like it would hit that door because there's an obstruction, right? And then it would say like, well, that's where the sound kind of stops. Anyways, so I did all that, and I kind of found out it's relatively easy. It was like hard for me to wrap my head around because I've never even like thought about the system. I kind of like the same day I was learning about it was the same day I made it, so it was kind of like, yeah, it took me all fucking day. But I made it. So now I have this kind of homebrew A-Star pathfinding system that's done 100% with PlayMaker. I didn't, I think there's like one custom action in there to like do some like really simple generic math. Like it's not even an action specifically for A-Star stuff. It's like you could use that action anywhere. So yeah, I made this pathfinding system with PlayMaker. It fucking works like a charm too, and it's like really performant. Stoked on it. Pretty proud of this. Let me read some of these comments. Oh my god, those tabs. Yeah. So, Mr. Chambers, these are the tabs that we're going through. We're might be hitting the halfway point soon. I gotta start like tearing through these. This is gonna be a long stream. This on top of the actions, blah, blah, blah. Robs are very cool. Hey, Steven, you have a very weird yet amazing skill. You can talk so fast, man. I did have an espresso this morning. I had an espresso, and I'm also trying to get through this shit because I want to get back to work. I'm enjoying my time here. I'm happy and excited to share everything with you guys, but I want to get back. I want to get back to work. I'm in the middle of a really cool problem right now. That last night, like before I went to bed, I kind of was like, oh, I know how I'm going to solve it. Yeah, I'm stoked to get back to work. Do the same thing in my game. I have dials for speed, Steam usage, and so on, but I don't show the exact numbers. Yes. So I love this. It's funny because this comment was made like 10 minutes ago, basically. I love this, so Rob saying that in his game, it's like, there's no explicit numbers. It's sort of like, it's the player's read on like a dial or something. And you kind of, it sounds like you have to eyeball it. He says he'll add numbers for accessibility, but like, that's still really cool, like that's really cool that like right now, the way it works is a way that's like, is more tangible and sort of like, I hate to use the word analog for everything. I don't think that's totally accurate, but like, yeah, that gets kind of close to the point of it. Hey, Rob, I'm fine. How's your ladybug? You can explain really well. Yep, I made so Rob says he made his own A-star. The grid is made from raycasts for control. I use pathfinding to make sure that the quest goal is placed where the players can get to it. Important in a procedural world. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. That was one of the main considerations when I was like, when I was designing my A-star thing, I was like, oh shit, like the agency headquarters, like CIA, MI6, KGB, all those, when you go into them in Memory Spy, they're procedurally generated. So I had to make sure that the tiles of each of those maps were able to sort of interface well with my A-star thing. So we have here getting into some pretty nutty AI stuff for Memories of Spy lately, and have returned to one of my all-time favorite PDFs, and it is, by the way, a PDF for the Left 4 Dead AI, or actually it's a general PDF for Left 4 Dead. So we have this picture here. This is a slide from the PDF that Valve made for, I want to say Left 4 Dead 2. It might be the first one, but anyways, this is a great PDF. I feel like I should just open it anyway. Let me see. Left 4 Dead PDF. I want to say it's this. Yeah, here we go. So you guys should definitely check this out. I literally just Googled Left 4 Dead PDF, and it was like the first result. This is a great document. It's all very high level, because it's just saying, well, yeah, it's still basically very high level. It's not getting into the nitty gritty of the code necessarily, but it's getting into the idea of like how the systems are built overall. So if you have any interests in like here's some pathfinding stuff like we were just talking about, but also here's some interesting stuff about getting their zombies to navigate ledges, or I guess not even necessarily zombies, but it could also be the characters. Like they show, look at this. This is step by step. It says, bot periodically tests for obstacles immediately ahead as it follows. So it's checking if there's an obstacle, and if there is, it shoots a raycast up to check if there's a ceiling. And then up to that point where it does find a ceiling, it does multiple raycasts going forward again from the top down, right? So it goes, and then it finds the ones that just keep going forward, that don't hit and don't find any obstacles. It uses that one and shoots down to find a ledge, but only from the sort of point where the character is going in that same direction, right? So it finds right where that ledge is. And then a final series of downward hole traces that step backwards, determining the forward edge of the lead, right? That's kind of what I was talking about. And then it uses that to say, like, that's the point where the character should jump up and grab the ledge and traverse the ledge. That's so fucking cool. And then right here, I was in this part. This is like where I spent a lot of time, where I was just like looking at their sort of how behaviors and actions are sort of coupled, because man, the Memories of a Spy AI is a sort of, I cherry picked from all of my favorite types of AI designs, AI, like broader AI system designs. So I spent a lot of time here. This is a really great PDF. I'm not going to go into this too much, but you should check this out. It's really fucking cool. So that's what this is. Next one. So always thinking about what I should name the AI system I'm building for Memories of Spy. It makes use of concepts from GOP and HFSMs. So maybe Go HFSM. What sort of systems are y'all using? Nobody responded to this one. It's just like, I don't like, I never like tweet anything for like clout or like trying to get a bunch of people like, you know, I'm not like chasing numbers on Twitter. But it is a bummer when like you are curious to hear like what your peers and other people in the community are doing, and nobody like either they're not doing it or they're not thinking about it or they haven't. I don't know. Maybe I'm just searching in the wrong places for these kind of things. But I've been trying to talk to more people about these things, and not too many people are so invested in these type of things specifically. If you don't know, I'll just go over this quickly too. GOP. It stands for Goal-Oriented Action Planning. It's an AI, it's a broader AI design developed and designed by Jeff Orkin. So the game FEAR, F-E-A-R, it's like F.E.A.R. It's like an acronym for something. That's sort of like one of the all-time famous AI systems. And goal-oriented action planning, the way it goes is like, every NPC has like a series of goals, and each of those goals, what they do is like they evaluate themselves based off of the world condition, like how far they are from something, how much ammo they have, how much health they have, and they kind of like get all this information, and whatever that goal is will sort of like score itself. If the goal is to go get health, or the goal is to like, or if the goal is to like maintain your health, or if the goal is to like protect yourself, defend yourself by shooting other enemies or something like that, the evaluation scores it, and maybe one goal has like a score of 3, the other goal has a score of like 5, the other goal has a score of like 1, and then once all the goals are scored, the AI chooses the highest scoring one and says, that's my main goal right now, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make that happen. So that's the goal-oriented part. That's how it chooses its goals. And then the action planning part, so that's G-O and then A-P, GOP. The action planning part is when it has a goal selected and it's decided to commit to that goal, it needs to satisfy that goal by taking a series of actions. And so actions are things like go to object, pick up gun, reload gun, like switch gun, switch to pistol, switch to automatic, use melee attack instead, take cover, like flee, run away, hide. All these are like actions. They're all sort of like little kind of behaviors. They're like little mini behaviors that they could do. And they have sort of logic that can link them together. They'll say that like they call them like preconditions and effects, and sort of like the precondition for reloading your gun is that you have ammo to even reload your gun. And the effect of picking up ammo is adding ammo to your inventory. So it would like naturally follow that you would take actions to fire a gun by like picking up ammo if you don't have any, reloading your gun if it's not loaded, and then shooting your gun, right? And so there's this really interesting way that like you can make all these little actions separate. It's like called decoupling, and let the sort of system stitch all of them together itself in a really like intelligent way that sort of like that weighs out the costs of doing each. Because it's like, oh, well, that ammo's kind of far. I can't just run over there to pick up that ammo because it's kind of far and they're already attacking me. So I should just switch to a melee weapon and just attack them with melee right now. Like that would be like a higher scoring action, or like, I guess it'd be a cheaper action, and then they pick the sort of cheapest action, the one that costs less. It's all about like the bottom line for these AI. So Sappy Rook says, hello. How's it going, Sappy Rook? Welcome. Just going over a not so quick, but in the grand scheme of things, very quick explanation of GOP. So goal-oriented, goes through all the goals, picks which one's the most important, and like makes that the thing that it goes after. Action planning is like, to satisfy that goal, what are all the actions I need to take, choose the cheapest one, and keep going from there. And each time it completes an action, it does that whole calculation again, because things change between when you started and when you finished the last step, right? Because if suddenly the bridge collapses before you even got to the ammo you were running to, then you can't get there anymore. So you need to recalculate, you need to replan you need to make a new plan. So that's scope. HFSMs are just hierarchical finite state machines. It's like if you use PlayMaker, if you've embedded state machines, if you're using templates and stuff, and you put an FSM in an FSM and an FSM, there's like all these little FSMs running inside of each other. That's just a hierarchical finite state machine. So yeah, my shit uses a combination of both. Okay, so that's what that is. Oh, and the picture, by the way, is like a naked NPC. I shot him, and then he just kind of fell funny. And he was kind of a little erotic, maybe. And then I took out the camera and took a picture of him. So this is me. So this is my shadow right here. This is the shadow of my character photographing this naked guy bent over on the sidewalk. Bad Tune says, you are so confident of your project that you can talk about it for days. I love the energy. Thank you. Yes. I love it with all my heart. It's like I've never been prouder of anything I've ever even began to work on. Like, I haven't finished the damn thing yet, and I'm just so proud of everything I do, and it's so much fun. I think I'm like, besides all the like really heady kind of like fun and intellectual side of things, like I'm also like trying to make it an emotional experience that will hopefully give people I don't know, to sort of like, what am I trying to say here? I want Memories of a Spy to give people an emotional experience that can inform how they might want to live their lives, right? I want you to be able to make decisions in Memories of a Spy that are mistakes, that are good decisions, that are, and all the spectrum in between those things, and to see how they affect the other characters in the game, and to see how your actions can affect the world, what side of yourselves you choose to share, and what side of yourself you choose to hide, all those kind of things. And I hope that like the experience of this kind of like funny little spy game will, hopefully make people happy, or make people think about how they live their lives a little bit more. So it's, I'm really stoked on it. I'm really super, super stoked on it. I love this thing. Been in a car for 4+ hours, but I'm here and have more dad jokes if you want to hear them. Not today, Sappy Rook. I got to get through this. I'm already spending so much time on each one of these tabs. Next stream for sure. Or you know what? Put them in the chat. Other people can read them. But yeah, I'm gonna pay attention to the stream related chats and then keep going to this. But please, yes, absolutely, share them. Oh man, that's awesome. I'd like that amount of satisfaction and confidence with the project. I got to get the fuck out of Hollywood, man. Yeah, Hollywood was kind of I never felt the sense of community quite as much as I in Hollywood, right? In film as I have in game dev stuff. It also, I don't know. That's another conversation. I'll just briefly say too that the pioneering aspect of game development is so exciting. It feels like we're all in something like new together. Whereas film, it's more about like sort of pushing forward like voices that haven't been heard and representation and stuff like that, which I think is like super important. But like, I think as far as like the form goes, cinema's well is running like really dry. And for some people that's exciting because they're like, okay, but what if I could find that one little gem of like how to make a movie like no one's ever made one before? And I'm just like, I don't know. I personally haven't seen any movies that made me feel that way anymore. But games, it happens left and right. It's like, oh, I've never seen something like that. Oh, I've never seen something like that. Nobody's done this. Nobody's done that, So anyways, that's that. Okay, so what we have here is characters' memories of spy have personalities, memories, and relationships, all which dictate how they prioritize their goals. Each goal has a planner, which also abides by those values. Here's how I sketch out notes for behaviors and what they end up looking like in PlayMaker. So this image, this is a side-by-side image of my notes. So I kind of keep a OneNote document that has all like, I kind of scratch in my ideas. And then on the left here is my FSM for, like I was just talking about goals, right? This is the goal for satisfying hunger. So this is what it looks like kind of in the purely logic sense when I'm just like writing it out in plain English. And then here's how it gets turned into an FSM. And it's still really close. You can even see that literally the shape of it. It's kind of like this little, it kind of bows out here, comes back, and then bows out again, and kind of makes these little waves, and then comes back down at the end. And that's kind of the shape it even takes here. You can see each of these green ones, right? Kind of comes out, and goes up and down, up and down. But yeah, so like at the top it says, is there any food in sight? Yes. Are you desperate? Well, I should say like this. It's like, is there any food in sight? And then right here is like yes, and down here is no. So if yes, are you desperate and starving? And then here's yes and no. And if yes, then just consume the object that you can see. And if no, then it's like, well, do you care if it's yours? Yes. Is it yours? Yes, consume object. But if you don't care that it's yours, have you tried buying it? There's just like, there's all this like, this sort of little chain of logic that it goes through, but it's mostly about like the logic. And then at the very end of it, each of these green ones, each of these little green states, or over here on the right, each of these little yellow pieces of text, those are the actions. So you can see the actions here are consume object, buy object, go to, get money, steal object, right? Because all those can send off to its own little piece of logic that does the same thing. So it's all sort of decoupled in some ways. Yeah, in some ways it's decoupled. The stream is too good, but I will not be able to work if I don't take a nap, so bye. Hope we will see more devlogs. Love this. Hey, take a nap. Get some sleep. Get some sleep. And you can always come back. There's going to be plenty more. Just take a note of how far you are into the stream. Or actually, you'll probably, if you stop watching and then you come back, I think it just picks up from where you are. Because that's what I do. That's what I do with streams too. Again, another amazing point. I'm not sure. Wait, Chambers, what point are you talking about? Okay, so that's this one. And I think right here, I said my notes can get pretty messy, but each of those bits of yellow text is an action which link to another page where I write out the logic for the action itself. All right, so how I'm showing here, like you see how it says consume object. These are little links that link to another page in my OneNote document. And that's the action. So I do the same thing with the actions. This is the consume logic action. Are you holding the food? Yes. Is it food? Yes. Does it need to be prepared? Do you have the tools to prepare it? Are you desperate and starving? Right? And so you can either prepare the food or just eat it or grab it if you're not already holding it. Okay, so there's that. All right, we're finally making progress to these tabs. Got this beast of a backup tool. Well, actually, I think this is related to the next one. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to read this kind of so this thing happened. I was working on the game and I lost about a day's worth of work. My Unity crashed, and my that character prefab where most of my work goes into was corrupted. It was just null. It was totally corrupted, completely unsavable. There was no backups. There was, I opened Unity, so like its little temp folder wasn't there anymore, and like it was fucked, and I lost a whole day's worth of work. Thankfully, I use GitHub, and I push all my commits, usually pretty often. But at that point, I had worked all day and forgot to commit. Shit happens, right? It was a bummer. I had a physical fucking feeling in my stomach. It was really like, it sucked. Like, I can't tell you how bummed I was. But I was also, you kind of get in that state where you're like so bummed, but also like kind of desperate. Like, how can I fix this? How can I fix this? And I know that for me personally, if I didn't fix it, I wouldn't really be able to, if I didn't fix it or get back to work on what I lost, I wouldn't really be able to function as a person. I can't just go play a game. I can't go watch a movie. I can't go hang out with friends. Like, my mind would be too much on like, how do I recoup, So Yeah, so I just said, feels shitty. Last Git push was the night before. I'm thankful for systematizing everything I do with FSM templates, seeing that they're the only thing that survived, right? So a lot of the work, thankfully, or a fair amount of the work, thankfully, were FSM templates, which, if you don't know, are assets. So those are their own separate files. So a lot of the logic I was putting into this one prefab, even though the prefab got corrupted, the assets that I was using for the programming in it, those were not corrupted. So thankfully, a lot of my logic I was able to hang on to. But the overarching logic that stitched those pieces together, that was fucked. So I would have to go and remake that. But so I said, but you live and you learn. I'm now setting up an automatic local backup for the assets folder of my project. Every 30 minutes, it makes a backup. I already Git push a lot, but this will account for the gaps in between pushes. So this is the tool I got. I got this Turbo Backup Pro and the user he has a Twitter account, or they have a Twitter account, Crosstails on Twitter. I'll read this really quick. Your point on game dev having more room for creative growth. Oh, right. Being creatively bank robbed. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of super creative stuff in film going on for sure. Like, it's very yeah, the word creative is a little ethereal, but all I meant to say earlier is the better word I should have used was innovative. There's nothing particularly I felt, personally innovative. I was I've seen that happen. The most remarkable movie that's very people might want to say is super innovative is Everything Everywhere All at Once, because of how grand it was and because of how I don't know. There's a lot of things to it that was just unconventional. But those things had by the way, I fucking love that movie. I love it so much. Made a huge impact on me. I think it's wonderful. Everything about it. But I wouldn't call it a innovative movie. It still uses a lot of tools and techniques and form, the form of it too, is stuff that we have seen. That we have seen in cinema before. It has all of its VFX and everything, it's still telling a story about change, and even the VFX are a lot of things that we've seen before. It's still using prosthetics, it's still using a lot of these compositions and light tricks, and sort of it's beautiful, and how it brought all those things together is what makes it amazing. I wouldn't say that it was innovative, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. You don't have to be innovative to make something good, Some of my favorite movies of all time, probably my favorite movies of all time, actually, I wouldn't say are particularly innovative. Anyways, tangent. Losing work through a crash is horrendous. I feel for you. Thanks. Yeah, it's really a shit feeling. Yeah, that was rough. MintyMan95 says, hello. I was watching your stream Metroidvania, or I was just watching your Metroidvania from Gumroad last night. Hey, right on. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying the Metroidvania course. I was just helping somebody sort some stuff out this morning, actually, or last night. Helped somebody sort out some cool little additional stuff that they took my course and were making things work, and now they're adding new logic on top of it. Some cool new systems that I had never thought about, and they just I came in and gave them a hand really quick. But I was oh, cool. People are fucking taking my Metroidvania course and making it better, Anyway, so this whole thing, this Turbo Backup Pro is what I ended up getting. It's a Unity asset. So this asset it's in Unity. It's in the project while it's running. And what it does is it lets you set a timer to make a backup to somewhere else for every file that's changed. So it works like a Git repo. It's not backing up the whole fucking project every time your little interval, whatever, 10 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever it goes up. It doesn't back up the whole project. It only backs up what has changed since the last one. And because of that, it goes really fast, right? It's highly performant, so it doesn't interrupt you while you're working. And it's low footprint, so you don't have to worry about having all these hard drives filled with backups on it. So I got that. Now I just have it running all the time. Honestly, now it backs up, I want to say every 3 minutes. or maybe even less. I put it at something kind of low. It just backs up constantly. So this is great. I highly recommend it. I think I kind of put down some cash on it. I want to say I dropped like some. I definitely paid for it, but I think that whatever it costs, it's fucking worth it. If you're a person in a developed nation with like even the most modest of income, if you can afford to buy video games and you're spending a lot of your time making them for leisure, then you could definitely afford this, and I highly recommend it. Otherwise, if you're barely scraping by, you're not in a place where you can do it. All I would say is like get a GitHub and get a GitHub account, get a Git repo, and fucking back up. Like, just set a timer on your phone, because this is essentially the same thing, but I'm just too fucking lazy to constantly be Git pushing. Also, there's a line you draw with that, how many Git pushes you make. I don't know. Anyways, Minty Man says, I am using it to steal some of your movement. My movement worked out, but it was buggy. Now it's not. My first 2D project in Unity. Right on. Fucking cool. Fucking cool. Minty Man, if you're ever feeling comfortable, go ahead and share stuff in the work in progress section of the Discord channel. There's a link to the Discord in the description if you ever feel like swinging by and showing what you're working on there. Okay, so the next thing we have here is my Git pushes are basically a diary. Speaking of Git, right? So this is what a Git push looks like for me. It always tells you to make a comment for it. And this is the comment I made for my Git push. Okay, started rebuilding all the lost work for the Satisfy Hunger Goal plan. Really getting through it pretty fast. Thankful it wasn't worse. Also installed Turbo Backup. So far working nicely. Keep your chin up. You're doing good. And it's like, yeah, I could have busted out my little fluffy pink diary with my little pink milk gel pen and wrote how I felt about, my day and my feelings and all that kind of stuff. Or I could do it like the cool kids do it and put all my feelings into my GitHub push comments. And so that's what I did. And then Lewis shared his too. The only good bug is a dead bug. Great push. Great push name. So then we got In Memories of Spy. There's no such thing as world hunger when there are giant croissants and chocolate eclairs. Also pray for me as I finally get to hit the editor play button for the first time in days. So this is a picture of me spawning in eclairs and croissants into the world and forgetting to... I honestly don't know where this went wrong. Like, I was spawning these in before. They were coming in just fine. I think somewhere accidentally I changed their scale value. And so these are giant food. And I just thought it was funny. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so some of you may have seen this. I guess I should full screen it. And I should not let the audio play. Or also get copyright hit. You can't really tell. It's a little dark. But I'm in the movie theater. This is from well over a year ago. This might be like 2 years ago. But this is a screen recording of... when I was first bringing in the cities to Unity, right? They're all modeled in Blender, brought them into Unity, I was lighting them up. And this is the movie theater in Berlin. The movie theater in Berlin in Memories of a Spy plays little procedurally generated movies. And so when I was testing out that idea, because it's kind of a wishlist item, when I was testing out that idea, this is the first thing I did. So essentially what happens is right now, what it's showing is there's a camera at this very second across the street in the building at the bar looking at the movie theater. So that's what the screen is rendering. The screen here in this movie theater is rendering what the camera across the street sees. That's why you could just see you'll see right now. So I'm going to leave the movie theater. Like I said, it's dark, right? I was just doing screen recordings just to share with friends and stuff. So see, I go outside. And that's the bar. So you can't see it, obviously. The camera is just a little component. It's not like a physical object, but you see that little car right there? That's the car that was parked right out front. Right? This, see? Car, movie theater. Yeah, you get the idea. There it is. So the camera's in this building over here. So I was just sharing that because I was like, I don't know why I haven't really showed that to people. But the idea, as I said here, is that plays procedurally generated movies starring actors that are characters you can run into in the game. Actors that can also be spies, a la Marlena Dietrich, Cary Grant, and Greta Garbo. So, in Memories of a Spy, you go to the movie theater, and whether they're going to be procedurally generated, because like the degree to which is kind of what's up in the air right now. But the idea is that, like, if you don't know, in the past, a fair amount, a remarkable amount, I should say, of celebrities, whether it be actors or musicians or, just like cultural icons in some form or another, they volunteered to sort of partake in espionage on behalf of their country, like the actors I named here. And they were getting involved in proper like espionage, where they would like hang out with people and like collect information and kind of bring it back to whatever their home agency was. So in Memories of a Spy, besides having the movie theater, right, because that's one of the places that you can hold you can have meetings, but it's also a place that you can go leisurely with your loved ones and stuff like that to increase your relationship and stuff, to maintain your relationship, I should say. The people that you see on screen are going to be characters that can show up periodically in the game, so that like celebrities, they're not always spies, but at some time they can eventually be spies. Anyways, so that's just kind of like, the system isn't fully fleshed out yet, but it's there. Okay, next one. So somebody asked earlier about my influences. What game influenced my Memories of a Spy? So they're not games. There are games that have had some indirect influence on it for sure. Like I can name off any Blendo games, right? Gravity Bone and 30 Flights of Loving for sure. Papers, Please, also a big one. That's just kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that I would say are a huge influence. Strangely enough, like Deep Rock Galactic, just for a lot of just kind of like how to sort of like make the system the story. There's like Deep Rock Galactic's kind of like an anecdote generator, because of like all the things you do are so sort of directly tied to like the world context of things, and so you can end up kind of telling stories about like what happened to you as a dwarf in this situation. There's also just like so many good world building things that like, tipping what's his name, Lloyd is like the guy in Deep Rock Galactic. He's your robot bartender, and like you don't need to tip him. You're losing money that you could be using somewhere else, but you can tip him money that you worked for just to see the little robot happy, and that's like such a role-playing kind of thing to do, but I'm so happy to do it all the time. So in that way, Deep Rock has also been very influential. But games aside, I would say that more importantly, these are the huge influences on Memories of a Spy. So the first one here is Le Samurai. Le Samurai is a Jean-Pierre Melville film, and I'm just gonna play it here. You should go watch this clip on your own, but this clip in particular is kind of like, it's him coming in with his big loop of keys into this car that's not his car, right? And first, in the beginning also, he's waiting for this parking attendant guy to kind of be looking the other way. He watches him go away. The owner of that car is also walking the other way, and then he just gets in the car, real sly, busts out this keychain. Look at all these fucking keys on there, and then one at a time, he tries each of these keys, and he's just staying there, keeping a cool composure, just trying one key at a time until he finds a key that can start this car, right? And eventually he does. Look, you see like all these keys right here, and eventually he finds a car and he's driving. He finds a key. So that is like, I was like, I want to do that kind of stuff in the game. I don't know about that mechanic specifically in Memories of a Spy, but I loved the tedium of it because there's tension in that. You're sitting there going through all these ways to sort of like make this car work, and the tedium of it, because of how slow that goes, there's like now you're kind of like raising the stakes, you know, you're not raising the stakes necessarily, but you're building suspense. I love that, and that's the kind of thing I want to put into Memories of a Spy. Also, there's plenty of other things about this movie. A lot of it has to do with kind of like relationships. He has the relationship with this piano player and kind of who he leads himself on to be, and kind of like, you know, mixing your professional life with your personal life and all that kind of stuff. Classic spy tropes, but sort of like the emotional elements of that. Also, I was like, man, that all that kind of stuff. Le Samurai, even though he's not a spy, he's like a hitman. I was like, those are the kind of things. Also, the fact that it's like set in 1960s Paris, right? That's a huge aspect of it too, just the vibe of it. I was like, all that. I want a game that does these things. So number 2 is Munich. Also, let me read some comments really quick. I like that you're using git commit comments for your diary. My aim with git commits is to tell a story of development in commit comments. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what happens, right? So you can sort of see the arc, the narrative of your game's progress. I like that. That's a good way to look at it. Oh man, this cinema idea is great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm stoked on it. A lot of people have done movies in movie theaters and video games, like, you know, that Justin Roiland game where you could watch the whole movie in the movie theater. A friend of mine on Twitter also just put in like a public domain movie in his movie theater. You could watch it. And there's like a few other games recently that I've seen too. There was like a whole sort of like week where like a lot of people were sharing their movie theaters in games on Twitter. Rock and Stone. Yes. Rock and Stone to the bone for Carl. Dude, hold on. Have you seen this? Do I have to like, what is it? Just webcam? Look at that. You got one of these, Rob? You got one of these, doesn't it look like a union shirt? Because it says Hoxus Mining Co., but it's like fourth something. Rock and Stone to the bone. And at the bottom, you can't really see it too well because the shirt's wrinkled, but leave no dwarf behind. Rock and Stone. It's not the coolest shirt. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the design, but you know, it's something. I wanna make my own Deep Rock shirt. You're absolutely right about Deep Rock. We tell stories and have running jokes, just like we did TTRPG. I don't know what that is. Why something role playing game? I want to do the IRL. Oh, that is awesome. Dude, the Deep Rock shirt is great. Let me bring it back to this. Okay, so the next thing is Munich. So the other film that inspired Memories of Spy is Munich. It's a Steven Spielberg film. It's about I don't want to name specifically these like groups or whatever, because all that's like the Assad or something like that. It's a team of people who were sort of like a team of hitmen, basically, going around and sort of killing influential people that were tied to a lot of like whatever you want to call it, like terrorist act. Even though these guys themselves, they were kind of doing things that you would see as like terrorist acts, but they were doing it on behalf of their country, and there's a lot of weird sort of gray area there, and it's like there are definitely like, I don't know, it's a touchy sort of moral thing. But anyways, Munich's a fucking awesome movie because essentially you're watching these guys go through all these like missions. There is great emotional stakes in this, and they have the relationships they have with each other. They develop as characters, and like you kind of see, like, especially for Eric Bana, he has like a wife at home and stuff and kids and everything. And just the way these men are sort of like vulnerable with each other, or kind of like you see their weaknesses and their imperfections and everything, and you just get to kind of like be with these people. And yeah, they're essentially, it's essentially a spy movie, because they're pretending to be people they're not, and they're doing a bunch of stuff for their country. And yeah, this movie I think is set in the 70s though. And it's globe-trotting, you know, they're hopping all over the place. They're going through all these cities and everything. And this is a huge impact. This is a huge influence on Memories of a Spy as well. Love Munich. You should totally go see it. You should go see Le Samurai. and Munich. These are very, very awesome. But again, this is the kind of thing where it's like, see, he's opening up this phone, right? He takes off the cover of this rotary phone, and that's where he places the explosive. And he ties it to like some remote detonator. So there's like a little light that goes off when the phone gets picked up, so they know when the phone gets picked up, and then they could detonate it right when that person's at the phone, you know? And so there's like, the technology is very simple. I remember when I was saying earlier, if you heard me say earlier, like I hate when games like add all this like tech shit that does all the work for you. These are like, this type of tech is the kind of stuff I like, because it's really simple and it's kind of like, it gives you very little information. And the reason that's cool is in this scene. If you've seen this scene, then you know what I'm talking about. But like, the thing about it is like, their system, it's using tech, and the tech is reliable, but the tech, the information that the tech is giving them is limited. So it's reliable, but limited. It's about interpreting the information. And that's what makes this really fucking cool, because this scene, there's so much tension and there's crazy high stakes. I'll just say there's a child that is in danger and shit. And it's all because like they don't have some gadget that like fucking holo scans the room and shows you exactly who's in it and then like detonates only when like this one person's right in the exact, like, nah. Like they have a little light that turns on, they have a phone call where they can hear somebody's voice, and they have to interpret that information before they make like a really important decision. I love that shit, you know? Totally the sort of antithesis to how like I was saying, all the other games play. It's like where they have all this like elaborate shit and you get all the info and tell your player everything. It's just so like, like I get bored by that shit. This is my jam. So I want to make Memories of Spy hopefully will sort of resemble these types of systems where you have reliable gadgets with limited information. And I think that's really interesting. Okay, so that's Munich. Let me close this out. And then I just made a tweet right after that. I kind of retweeted myself where I said, probably the best I've been able to summarize what this game is supposed to be. And this is me describing why Munich and Le Samurai are an inspiration. I said, for their vibes, period, pacing, strong focus on very tactile experiences, and big emotional stakes tied to secretive lifestyles. So that is like the little nugget log line of like what makes me excited about Memories of a Spy. Tabletop role-playing. Gotcha. AKA pencil and paper RPG. Yes. You excited for Matt Johnson's new film Blackberry? I am. I was watching it. I was like, wait, Matt Johnson's in it, because I saw him, like, you know, I'm watching the trailer. I see that he's in it. And then I'm like, this is very, like, the vibes of it is, like, all this, like, planning and scheming and shit. Like, this kind of sounds like Matt and Jay trying to fucking, like, get a show at the Rivoli, except instead of the Rivoli, it's, like, a business, and instead of trying to get a show, it's, like, trying to market a new type of phone. And I was like, get the fuck out. I Googled it, and I was like, this fool directed it, like, let's go. So yeah, I'm stoked. Sorry, Steven. Best spy movie was Austin Powers. I love Austin Powers. Austin Powers is so fucking good. I watched all three of them again like a year or so ago. I love it. I love Austin Powers so much. Gorman, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy vibes is low tech too. Yes, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. That's been a huge. If you've seen my devlogs, I make massive references to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. That's also another one. Yeah, just like putting documents in your shirt, like, oh, like low tech shit is like the best. So Dio says Tetris is similar too. Tetris, what is that for what? Tetris is similar because it's Russian. Oh, there's that Tetris movie too. That one where like that's another like one of those like company movies that's like the history of like of a product. There's that movie with like the guy who made Tetris sort of not getting kind of a shit deal, and then that other guy trying to like, you know, do him right, you know. So let's see what the next one is. This next one says Bata makes a crazy currency system for Memories of Spy. Pray for me. So I mentioned some of this earlier. The currency system for Memories of Spy is also going to be very tactile. Somebody asked earlier, I forget the person's name, but somebody in chat was talking about where do I draw that line between like the detailed, realistic simulation style stuff, and like when does that get too much, and when does that you know, start making it a shitty experience to play, right? Because I think that's absolutely right. That is like a balancing act that you have to draw. Because if you simulate everything and you're trying to make somebody be able to do it with this or with this, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because like these aren't just your hands and these aren't just your eyes and everything. Like there is a wall between you and the world if it's simulated, right? And because of that, you have to make a lot of interesting design decisions that are quality of life, that kind of make it easier to participate in the simulation. So how do you balance that without sacrificing all the cool tedium that gives you all the cool shit for a spy game, right? This is a great example. So whoever asked that question earlier, this is your answer. This is an answer to help you kind of see some of my thought processes behind designing these things. So for the currency system, when you pay somebody, you say, I would like one of these, please, or you go pick it up from the counter or whatever. This, I'm not even gonna get into this, but you say one of these, please, and then they say it costs $15, say. And then you go, okay, you reach into your pocket, you take out your money, whether it's your wallet or your purse or whatever, or a wad of bills, or just all crumpled up in your pocket, whatever. And then you take out $15 and then you hand it to them. Usually you're handing money, right? Especially if it was in the 1960s, you're handing over the money. They take it from you, they count it, they make sure that it's actually the amount that is required to buy this. If it's the correct amount, they'll go, cool, they'll put it in the cash register, give you any change if needed, and then slide the item over to you, and you could take that home, and now it's yours. And there's sort of an agreement that we all have that, like, we witnessed this happen, and now the item is yours, right? You paid for it, and it's yours. And then you might even get a receipt, right? So in Memories of a Spy, the thing is that, like, if I wanted to simulate all that, right? If I wanted the whole process of you being able to hand over money, that would also sort of like suggest that there might be in some way like separate sort of, like, when do you start separating bills, right? How many denominations do you make? Do you make a $1 bill, a $5 bill, 10? Or do you try to like compartmentalize that? Do you try to like make it like, oh, maybe there's just a 5 and a 20, and I make the prices for things like a little bit more exaggerated to kind of fit these things? Those are considerations to be made. So for Memories of a Spy, the system as it stands right now is that when you get money, you can choose to add it to your inventory. It's a really quick way. You can either just hit E while you're looking at money, and the interact option for E, if you just tap it, is it'll reach over, grab it, and add it to your inventory, but it will add it by consolidating it with any existing money in your inventory. Because remember, in Memories of a Spy, if money is supposed to be physical and you're supposed to be handing it to people, it can't just be a magical little number that floats on the side of your screen, right? Then, like, in your inventory, there might be separate slots for that. So it's kind of, it's this weird game you have to play where it's like, all right, well, do I want to have like a stack of, say, like $150 in my inventory next to another little stack? It's almost like Minecraft, right? It's like you have like if you have a bunch of wood in your inventory, maybe you have like 5 64 stacks, like a 10 stack. But also earlier you're working on something, you forgot you have like a little 5 stack, you have a little 30 stack, and it's all separated, right? You could consolidate it into 64 blocks if you wanted to. But maybe, I don't know, whatever. It's like, it's just the messiness of life allowed those stacks to be all separate. So very similarly, that happens here. And the reason that's important is because when you want to like rob somebody, or if you know that you can be robbed, you might want to divvy up your money in certain ways, or if you want to plant money on people or give money on people, if you want to slip money to people as a bribe, the way you divide your money, it matters. It's like in a physical space, So there's a lot of considerations to how money is divvied up in a physical way. So yeah, in Memories of Spy, if there's money sitting out there in the world that you can see, if you tap E on it, your character will grab it and take it, and then it'll consolidate it it'll consolidate it to the first stack of cash that it finds in your main inventory. Or you can hold E and add it to your inventory as its own separate thing. So there'll be a separate stack. And so it's very simple. It's just a bit difference between tap versus hold. Whether or not I grab it and consolidate it, or I make it its own little stack inside my inventory. And then when you're giving it to people, they put out their hands. When they're waiting to be paid, they put out their hands. And then you just give it to them. And that's the sort of, like, you can click on their hand to give them the money. And the way you, instead of having to go like, here's a 1, here's a 5, and just like doing this tedious process of like, you know, almost like when you're putting coins into a machine, it's not that tedious. You still have the cool interface of modern games where, you know, on games too, when you want to change the amount of money you're adding or taking or whatever, there's just a little up and down arrow. You can increase and decrease. Same thing here. Memories of a Spy's system is that it'll give you a little interface to sort out the amount of money you want to give in whatever denominations or whatever. And then when you're done sorting that out in its own little special interface, you could hit done, and then it'll have that in your hand. And then you just hand it to them. So it's like a very like fluid, very like not like a ton of crazy interface shit. Literally just like click it, move it. Now it's in your hand. Hit E on their hand to give it to them, you know? So you do have the tedium of being able to, of having to like separate the cash and give it to them, but with the smooth, clean, sort of easy to use interface of like a modern game. So that's the currency, and this is what it looks like. This is a little 3D model. Eventually I'm gonna get to the point where I'll actually have the texture for the denominations and the different countries, because each country has their own currency. Yeah. Tetris the movie, right. I'm excited for that movie too. Same. Yeah, if they made another, take my money. Comedy is so tame these days. Dude, I fucking love Nirvana the band. They need to smuggle the game out of Russia. Yep, that was me. Cake Man. So I hope that helped answer, or I hope that gives you an idea of my thought processes. So a lot of those same considerations I take for other aspects of the game as well. I just thought that this money one would be a good one, a good example. Okay, so next, wait, did I close? Okay, yeah. So next we got some hot FSM templates for Memories of Spy. I'll go, these are just kind of boring. I mean, I use FSM templates for everything. So this is find stores with product. So this template is like a template that like, I tell it this character wants whatever, a watermelon. I say that's the object to buy. So that's the input. And then what it outputs is all the locations that sell watermelon. That's all it does. I tell it what I want to buy, and then it spits out all the locations that sell it. Location info. So every location kind of has like some info about it. A lot of them are businesses. This is actually sort of an old one. This is from March 3rd, earlier this month. This has grown a lot. But some of the early stuff that it had was like whether or not this place has food, because some businesses don't have food. They sell other things, other type of products. But that's a good delineation, a good little checkbox, because a lot of the stuff that you do kind of think about with locations can be separated into like whether or not it's a place to eat, right? Because that's one of the main things you're doing at a store. So I just have a little bool value that says has food or not. And so I put this FSM onto locations, which are game objects in the world. And I say like, yeah, this is a place that sells food. I just check that box. And then here I just enter the name of the place. These are arrays right here. So I can just unclick this little equals box and then say here, and I can just drag and drop prefabs into it. Like these are all the items you sell. Those are all the goods that they sell. And then there's corresponding arrays for the inventory count and the prices. So, you know, the bread is at 1, the milk is at 2, or the bread is at 0, the milk is at 1, et cetera, carrots at 2. And then on the corresponding arrays, I'll put like, well, the first price is however much bread costs, the second price, you know, et cetera. So it has all the goods that I'm selling, what their prices are, and then how much is currently in the inventory of that place, because they might just sell out, right? They don't have infinite amount. And there's just some pathfinding stuff in here where the entrance is. So when people want to find a location, they go to it, they get that little entrance marker and they go there. Simple shoot. So this is like an FSM I make for shooting, for guns. So there's gonna be like a small variety of guns in Memories of the Spy, and like, essentially guns do a lot of this, basically the same thing, but you just want to tweak the values that make each gun unique. So for this, it's like I have bullet health, which is like how strong the bullet is when it passes through things, because in Memories of a Spy, when you shoot things, it's like Counter-Strike. In Counter-Strike, you could shoot through some materials, but not all, and like how many times it can go through each of that material. Like it can go through like a thin piece of wood, but if you stack up 10 thin pieces of wood, it might make it only to like around 4 or 5, and then it'll stop there because it had to go through a bunch, right? So it's like each time it passes through something, the bullet health deteriorates until eventually it can't go any further, and then it just falls. The force amount, so that's when the bullet hits, like should it push them back really strong or should it just kind of tap them? That's just for like cool ragdoll stuff when they get hit and it makes them fly back. Health to subtract, like, you know, how much damage does it do? The master audio group, that's just the name of the sound effect that plays. Raycast origin, so it's kind of like, yeah, some things it's like, here's the tip of the gun, but like, you know, with the shotgun it might be a little different. It's just where the tip is, especially with when you put silencers on things, that changes, you know, because the tip of the gun's here, and then you put a silencer on, and now the tip of the gun is here, etc. And there's more things that have been added since then. This is also sort of old. Here's inventory total cash. This is a template that just gets how much cash is on the person. So you could just input the character, and then it'll spit out every inventory, because like in Memories of a Spy, like you have multiple inventories and it's based off of your clothes. It's like your shirt is an inventory, your pants are an inventory, your underwear is an inventory, your jacket's an inventory, your shoes are an inventory. You have an anal cavity and a mouth cavity, so you can hide things in your ass and hide things in your mouth. So that means you can also put money in your mouth and money in your ass and money in all of your clothes and stuff like that. So what this does is it checks all those inventories where money might be, and it gets the total amount, and it just kind of spits out like, okay, this is how much money you have in total. Yeah, and that's what that is. This is, I have this printed on a little card to remind myself how to participate in the human economy. So I just made like a note here because I was kind of like racking my brain, like, how the fuck do you buy things? And it was like, okay, you go to store, you go to product, you grab the product, you take the product to the cashier, you initiate transaction dialogue, like, hello, I would like to buy this. You await payment details, right? They say that will be $12.50. You provide payment, you hand them that $12.50. You await payment remainder. That's sort of like, if you gave them $12, they might be waiting for like the additional 50 cents. Or if you handed them $15, then you might be waiting for your cash back, whatever the $3 remaining. And then complete transaction dialogue, like, thank you, come again. And then take product. You take the product and you leave, right? And that's it, right? And that's that's one way to buy things from the store, because that's the type of store where the products are on the shelves and you take them to the cashier. There are other stores where you have to go to the counter and then you get something from the counter. And there's restaurants that are at the counter, but there's also restaurants where you sit down first and they come to you. So there's A, B, and C. I think there's D too. I forget if there's 3 or 4, but yeah. So I modeled out all the sort of logic between those different types of ways to buy things. But I was like, I feel like an alien or like a robot. Like, I don't feel human. It's like, this is my little card where I go like, okay, go to store, go to product, grab product. I am a human, I swear. Goodbye PG rating. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, on the Steam store, there's a, like, or when you sign up to make your Steam page, they ask you to like name off all the things, and basically Memories of Spy has all the things that make an explicit or mature game. There's like self-harm, sexual stuff, you know, drug use, violent, like I checked every single box. And I was just like, God damn. Yeah. Like, but you know, it's like, I don't know. In the grand scheme of things, like, I feel like Memories of the Spy isn't like it's dark for sure. There's some dark things, but I don't feel like Memories of the Spy is that dark, honestly. Like, I think it's like lighthearted enough. It deals with those themes for sure. Like, you could take drugs in Memories of the Spy. You could kill people in Memories of the Spy. You can kill yourself in Memories of the Spy. You can have sex in Memories of the Spy. But I don't know. It's not like super explicit. I mean, look at this guy. You know, like, I mean, there'll be a slightly more detail, but they're not even really going to have. I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick to the idea of them not having eyes. It's just going to be like facial hair or lips and hair, and like probably not even ears, you know. But yeah. So, sure. 1 second. Sound of zipper. Lol. Dialogue is somewhere. So this is actually a response to somebody put out. Puppet Combo actually. Puppet Combo put out this question that said like, how does your dialogue system work in your game? And so I responded. I was like, every line of dialogue can be said at any point to any person in any of the 5 languages available, plus the 2 English dialects. Each line has metadata with it. And NPCs' responses are all contextual to current relationships and situations. Not every NPC speaks the same language. So this is what it looks like. Remember that mock-up I was showing you earlier? This is the actual UI. So this is what the Memories of a Spy dialogue system looks like. And this is, yeah, so like this is what the UI actually functions like in Memories of a Spy. This is no longer a mock-up. So down here, you have all the flags to say which language you're speaking. For US and UK, it's English, but it's like a different sort of like way of speaking, which have just, you know, slight differences here and there. But again, it's what kind of gives you a way to say like where I'm from, or what you might trying to be sort of pretending to be from, because you might be an American pretending to be from the UK or vice versa, whatever. So whenever you speak, it's always going to start on, I haven't decided this yet, but it's either going to start on the last language you are speaking whenever you open the dialogue menu, or it will start on your native tongue. I haven't decided which one I want it to start with. I think the former. I think it'd be interesting if it was always defaulting to the last language you spoke. So that way, when you open this and are trying to speak, you have to be more mindful about which language you're speaking. Because if you were just in Russia all day and you were speaking Russian, and then you just flew back and you were trying to hide the fact that you were in Russia from somebody, and you were talking to them, and then you might answer in Russian because that was the last language you were speaking. And you're like, you got in that groove. You were just speaking that the whole time. And if you answer to somebody in Russian who's speaking to you in whatever, like German or French, they're gonna be like, what the fuck? And I'm purposely designing systems for the player to like make mistakes, you know, because that's the kind of mistake I'm trying to simulate that can kind of give you away. So I have it here, and these are sort of divided into categories where it's like, hello is just a greeting, and that's a line of dialogue. But social and professional right here, those are categories. So I've selected social, and in here it gives me subcategories: stranger, acquaintance, or loved ones. And then I've selected stranger. From here it gives me the actual dialogue to say. So to a stranger, what I might say is, who are you? Or hi, stranger. This is a very bare bones version of this, and there's a lot of things that have actually changed how this system works. But yeah, that's how the system was, because it's kind of like, if there's a bunch of dialogue you can say, you don't want to have your players scrolling through all this shit. That's another one of those like quality of life things that we're talking about, like the simulation versus like the quality of life thing, right? I want to give the player a huge breadth of options, but I don't want to drown them in a huge list that they can't navigate. So I'm trying to design an interface that makes the most sense. And when you're talking to somebody, I think a great way to start is to kind of be like, well, what is my relationship with this person that I'm talking to? Because like then I can start, that will narrow down the kind of things that you would say to them. So that's one way. There's other considerations, but I'll talk about that another time. And yeah, anytime you click one of these flags, it changes the language. So you can see here, I clicked on the German one, and now it changes all of these to just German. So now it says hello, social, whatever, Fremder, wer bist du? And then I change it to French. It says bonjour and amour and bonjour. I don't know how you're supposed to say stranger in French, but it says that's all the same things, but these are just different languages, right? And it just updates in real time right there. You click on it and changes it, and then that's what your character will say instead. So that is that one, the dialogue. Almost done. Just a few more tweets. So major milestone of Memories of Spy, when in the coming days an NPC will get hungry and for the first time buy their own food and then eat it. I have to admit that this did not happen. Because what happened was I got to this part, and not dissimilar to the airplane situation, I was like, fuck, they need to talk to each other. Because I had put off the dialogue thing. I started chipping away on it when I was working on the airplane stuff, right? I was like, oh, they have to buy a plane ticket. That means they have to talk to each other. And I started working on dialogue, and then I had to start working on something else because I got a little too. Sometimes you need to step away from things, right? So then when I was working on this shit, that problem reared its ugly head again. I was like, I need to make these people talk to each other. I need to make my fucking NPCs talk. How do I do it? But yeah, so this tweet is me going like, all right, I thought I had everything ready because all the logic for buying something and selling something, both sides of the transaction, as a customer and as a person selling the thing, I had finally laid it all out and programmed it. It was ready to go, except for that last little part where I was like, fuck, I forgot, like, they have to talk to each other. But yeah, this is a shrimp cocktail that you could buy at the Manu PD Lounge. And each one of these shrimps is like X amount of calories that you can eat individually, and yeah, they'll serve that to you, and a waiter can bring it to you. Here's also a GitHub. I thought this was really funny just because I had this open for a long time and I accidentally clicked this shrimp, and I kept looking over at this my GitHub desktop, my GitHub client, and I kept seeing this shrimp. I'm like, why do I have a shrimp there? I was like, oh, duh. Like, you literally just made this, Yeah, so there's that. What's next? Yeah, here's a menu for the Manu PD Lounge. So what else should be served at the Manu PD Lounge? That's what I asked them. Here's the menu. Exotic cocktails and grubs. Right now, the menu is very limited just because, like, I just wanted to get something up and running. Of course, things will be added here later, but the cocktails you can get are the Manu PD Sunrise and the Polynesian Mist. I had a really good suggestion when I was making this. I was told that it would be cool if I made these drinks, and I think that's a great idea. So I want to make my own cocktails. I want to make an actual Manu PD Sunrise. I don't know what that is yet. I have to come up with it. So I want to go to some tiki bars, learn a little bit about like what kind of stuff you put in tiki drinks, and then make my own. And then I want to make a Polynesian Mist. Neither of these drinks exist. I gotta make them up, and I think it'd be cool to come up with these things. The grub, shrimp cocktail, and a peanut bowl. There's not a lot of crazy shit to eat at a tiki bar, but it should be substantial enough to like get you full, keep your energy level up. And here's a little. This is actually kind of what it looks like more like in game. It has this little vignette around it and stuff. Yeah. Okay. I just love the texture of this shit. I'm so happy with how this one came out. And then let me just make sure that this is good too, right? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so we got how many? 4, 5, 6 left. I had made a tweet about, I was asking people like what sort of tips they have to share about like staying on track for long-term projects, because at the time I was feeling like, hey, like I've been keeping my my chin up, and I've been really pushing forward. I feel like I owe a lot of that to like habits that I've developed, because in the past it's been really hard to like stick to a project long term. And to stay motivated to push through the hard times and sort of make sure that I'm chipping away regularly. So I put that question out on Twitter, and some people had some really cool things to share. I shared some stuff of my own, I think, as well. And somebody had mentioned, they said one trick, this person, Stefan Sadchikov, said, one trick I picked while working as a product manager: clearly define milestones, the next big thing for the game to achieve, and only do things meaningful to reaching that milestone. So it sounds obvious enough, but it's also like, it's a nice sort of formula to follow, like explicitly. And so yeah, like I had done something similar at the time. So I said, to their point about milestones, here's one of the more helpful things that I've made for my production. So yeah, I had been working this kind of in the background, working off of this in the background. I literally have this image opened up on the desktop for a while, just to kind of keep me on track, so I could look at it and go, this is what I should be doing. These are my goals. But this is the Memories of a Spy development phases overview. It's 4 phases for a sort of overarching, arching. I never know what to say. The broader sort of phase is that like I'm trying to get to a point where I could play the game between 2 cities, between DC and Moscow. Because once I get those 2 working, I'll sort of understand how the cities should work and how quests and travel and all that shit should work, where the rest of my job is just content creation. Because at that point, I'll at least understand how 2 opposing forces work together. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of other interesting things that adding a 3rd will sort of change and everything. But I think most of the designy bits will sort of be worked through by the time I'm done developing just 2. So, I accidentally did the Nixon thing. But these are the 4 phases of this sort of like first broader phase. The win and lose states is in phase 1. So this is DC versus Moscow only. I want to get plane travel down. I want to get 1 informant quest for each city. So it's like the informants are the people who give you quests that like reward you with either intel or money. That's sort of one of the first sort of mini parts of the game loop. Buy food and coffee, right? So you're going to have to stay alive. Right now, when I play the game, when I test shit and I'm running around the game, because I don't put food in the world and because I can't go buy food from people just yet, like I have a limited time to play test because my character just starts dying immediately because they don't have any food to eat. They get hungry and then they start dying and then they just die. And like during that whole time, their field of view is like getting smaller, so it's even kind of like hard to play. Thankfully, I don't have to test anything long term enough most of the time, so it's just like. But it is kind of funny. It's like, yeah, I can't test for more than like 5 minutes or something. So yeah, I want to buy food and coffee. Random civilian wander. That's actually I already did that. Like there's like a lot of things that I've already kind of done. Simple traffic in cars. That's something that's also being tested right now. Is some cool stuff I just got. Sleep, that one also a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff, all the sleep and energy stuff that's been done for a long time, but the actual part of going to sleep to regenerate has not been implemented yet. A lot of these things, it's like the subsystems that they rely on are there. It's all this background shit with like all the numbers and math and like getting game objects from places. It's all there. But what needs to be done is like they either need to be brought together to work together, and or there needs to be sort of like physical manifestations of them. There's usually sort of only like 1 or 2 pieces like missing. Collectible intel on CIO. NPC recognizes attributes. That means like when an NPC sees you, like, do they see you for who you are? Do they see that you have a mustache? Is that mustache real? What kind of clothes are you wearing, etc. Rob Lang says, Gorman Studio says, man, I just can't find a game idea that I can stick to. I just get lost in it for the first few days and burn out quickly. I love these devlogs for inspiration and just to watch the process. I mean, I don't know what your skill level looks like, Gorman Studios, but I would attribute a lot of the persistence to like technical competence. I'm not super technically skilled, but I have the good fortune to like spend a lot of time problem solving, which I think is the only thing that sets me apart from like, anybody else who might be doing this in a more leisure and like hobby thing. Because if it's not your main job, then you don't have enough time to problem solve stuff. And I can imagine that if I had to do all this other shit throughout my entire day, that only be able to carve out a little bit of time for my game would make things a lot harder to stay motivated if I run up against problems. Because I've been able to, at times, take large portions of my week off and just focus on my game. And what that allows me to do is, like, get through problems in a really focused way where, like, dude, if I had a job, like, I feel like, honestly, the type of person I am, like, I might be giving up on things, too. And in the past, like, you guys have seen me work on this thing for the past two plus years now, and the times where I've stopped working on it, like I've stopped working on Memories of Spy for months at a time. There's huge gaps in the production cycle of this game. I've had the persistence to come back to it because I love it so much, but there's huge times where I take off of it. And those times where I'm taking off, or I'm not touching it, I haven't opened the Unity project, anything like that. Those times are usually because I'm worrying about money, because I have to focus on my actual job, like my, higher paying job, I should say. And just like, yeah, like other like life things that like I need to do or want to do, because yeah, I'm doing this by myself. It's very insular. I need to go live my life. I went to Japan at the end of last year, and I was gone for like a month. And I was just there because I've been wanting to do that. I wanted to spend the holidays in Japan with my friends, and like I can't just be like, oh, but I gotta work on Memories of a Spy. Like, no, I have my life to live, and like Memories of a Spy isn't going anywhere. So yeah, the reason I want to bring this up, the reason I wanted to say those things in response to what Gorman's saying is because I have to recognize, and I want to like explicitly, very like objectively illustrate to you, like I have a lot of privilege to be able to work on this, how often I do and at the rates that I do. So that's worth considering. And the only thing I think that you can do to combat something like that is scope the fuck down. So, if you lose interest on your other projects, that's honestly fine. You can have super scope down projects and you just, maybe you're just not interested anymore. But I bet you anything that if you found a game that you had enough juice to work on and kind of keep it up, it's more likely that it was something that's smaller and more feasible to work on, because the problems you're solving are probably a little easier to solve if you're just carving out a couple hours out of your weekend or whatever it is after you get home from work and stuff like that. And I feel like that's a more feasible space to sort of like stay focused on a project. That's a more feasible way to stay focused on a project. I hope that helps. One thing many game devs miss is truly understand why they're making the game. If you don't know that, then no amount of habit will keep you going over a long time. That's a really good point. That's like a really, really, really good point. Yeah, I like that's a very nuanced point. There's so much to unpack there. That's like there's probably even things I'm not even considering about that side of things. But yeah, I think like the why is like, are you trying to like make money from it? Are you trying to do something special that like is satisfying your soul? And that's just sort of like the tip of the iceberg. Because then underneath that is like, well, if you are just trying to make money from it, well, like specifically how, and like specifically why do you need money from this, and then there's like a bunch of other whys you can ask after that. And then the fulfilling thing, it's like, well, why do you want it to be fulfilling to you? And like specifically what about it is fulfilling to you, yeah, that's a very like philosophical sort of consideration that I think goes. I mean, I bet people are thinking about these things, but because of the fact that it's more tied to like just knowing yourself as a person and kind of like sorting stuff out like internally, call it spiritually or psychologically, whatever, it's probably something that is like more root or core, right? It might even be like, why are you getting up in the morning, period. Dio says it's been a long time. It's been a long time for what? Since what? Since you worked on a game that you were stoked on or something? Gorman Studio says, yeah, you really need to love the idea. I had a game I was pretty far in making, but I hit a wall skill-wise and just went off the idea by the time I got back to it. And just went off the idea. Yeah, I think that's interesting. If you got that far with something and then like there was something that's in the skill that's like that was more tied to your skill, it was like a technical challenge, I guess. If it was a technical challenge after you got so far, yeah, that could be rough. I mean, some of the biggest hurdles that I've had to face were like how to sort of like compensate for technical things. Memories of Spy, while sort of like mechanically all the systems are individually are very simple, how they all snap together is actually stupidly complex. And I'm modeling a lot of like stupidly complex systems. But that's never been an issue. The only thing that's ever been an issue has been like technical limitations that like I have to spend a lot of time figuring out. Like when I was doing the multiplayer stuff, I had to do a lot of tests and learn a bunch of shit about like networking that I was just like, you know what, like this type of thing as a solo dev, like way over my head right now. Like it's not way over my head, you know, like I can't understand it. It's not like I'm stupid. It's not like I'm not smart enough to figure those things out, but it is such a massive workload that it was like, oh yeah, like it usually you do things like this with massive teams of people. Yeah, running a simulation style game networked is not easy. Anyways, I was just trying to say the whole technical limitations. Maybe that game is worth coming back to. Gorman, I would say, like, you know, one day, just open it. Just open it. Just open the project. No preconceptions. Just open it, take a look. When you're there, think about maybe how that technical limitation that you kept running against, maybe the way to solve it is to just remove it altogether. That's how I've solved a lot of problems. Whenever I find a technical limitation, I'm just like, you know what? Then I just remove that part. And thankfully it's only been like 2 or 3 times, but like it's been a life-saving moment every time where it's just like, oh, now I can get back to work. I guess that part wasn't so important, you know? I've given up temporarily. Hey, you know, that's okay. That's okay. We take breaks. There's nothing wrong. Like I said, I've been off the game for months at a time. Mr. Jumper says, my job has been the biggest killer of my ability to work on my game 100%. I know, dude, like worrying about your well-being and like, you know, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs or whatever, like that shit's real. I almost attribute like, you know, more than half, maybe like 75-80% of like why I'm able to keep pushing forward on this game is because the life I've built for myself is more focused on giving me time to do things I enjoy and not having to spend time on other things that I like need to do, you know? I mean, guys, remember when I lived in fucking that old place, the old place that I used to do streams from? Like, that was great. But I was living paycheck to paycheck. I wasn't saving much money. Because I live in Los Angeles and it's like, it's fucking hard to live out here. And this, what you're seeing here, this is I'm living in a room in my parents' place. I live with my fucking parents, but at least now I'm able to save money. I'm tucking money away to sort of like, you know, you need that shit. I need to have like a savings. I'm able to sort of like more comfortably, pay for whatever type of, you know, just normal bottom tier Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm able to pay for these things more, and be more comfortable. And it lets me, I'm afforded the sort of like low stress, space that you kind of need to work on like a big project. I left my job and started my own little business 1st of January, and for the last 3 months have had the time but no ideas. Very annoying. That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. I mean, you might just need to. Can I suggest this? Can I give some hard-hitting advice? Grab a notebook, not a computer, not your phone. Grab a notebook, like a pen and paper, and then take that shit to like a park or a cafe and get coffee or caffeine, whatever your like preferred caffeine intake method is, whether it's tea, energy drinks, or coffee or whatever. Get that, a nice fair dose, whatever it is, because maybe you drink a lot of coffee already and maybe that shit doesn't do anything for you, but whatever it is that you need to make it so you're like fucking like hyper and your mind is like racing, get into that mode. And the reason I say bring a pen and paper and not a laptop is because if you have internet or if you have anything like that, you're gonna get distracted and do other shit. I'm so serious about that. Just have a pen and paper, just be with your thoughts, and then fucking force yourself to spend the entire day, or as long as you possibly can, making a plan to like do something and make something happen. That's worked for me many times. So maybe you could try that. Gorman Studios, as far as like not having ideas goes. Okay, we're on the last few here. We're really stretching this out. So I'm going to just go through the last phase. So phase 2, ID documents, politics. So document forging, political climate disguises. You guys have heard me talk about all this stuff, right? Like in the past. I'm not going to go over it right now. This is too, you know, fucking, this is fairy dust, whatever. Like it's magical, it's ethereal. It's not a lot of this shit is intangible, not interesting, boring. Let's skip this. So here we say, gotta staff these businesses before they can serve the public. Service workers and members of SPY. I just thought this was like a funny snippet from my notebook. This means that should something happen to any employee, the staff can be rearranged to evenly distribute duties. For example, a business has 3 waiters and 2 bartenders. One bartender dies. One of the waiters can be reassigned to be a bartender until a new hire can come and restore the original staff count. So this system kind of exists. And it took, you know, all of 5 minutes to design because it's just kind of a numbers game and how you organize like data, right? But it's just funny because it's like, it sounds like I'm a fucking employer or like I'm managing a business. Like, oh, what happens if it's like, okay, well, you should. Anyways, I was like, this is the silliness that game design sort of puts you in. Next. I've been looking forward to making the bartender AI for quite some time. Tomorrow is waiter AI and I'm stoked. So here's the tend counter logic. So this is a goal. Is this a goal? I think this is a goal. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a goal. So the logic says, these are all the considerations that the logic asks. Are you at work? Are you at your service spot? Your service spot being sort of like your place behind the counter, right? Are there any customers waiting? Are you currently fulfilling an order? Are any customers hanging out at the bar? Is it time for work? Those are all the considerations. Then it answers all those, and then it has different, sort of actions to take based on that. So the actions that could be taken based off of that are: you continue fulfilling somebody's order that you've already taken. You can greet and take the order from the next customer. You can make small talk with random customers, washing a glass with a rag, the classic bartender move, or idle washing a counter with a rag. You can go to your service spot. You can go to your job location, like if you're not at work yet. And then there's kind of like a fuck off thing. This eventually evolved into Play Deep Rock Galactic. In the actual FSM, this isn't on here, but in the FSM, this no right here is Play Deep Rock Galactic, because that's what my NPCs do. So here's a real one for you. This kind of touches on what we were just talking about. Okay, I get it. I'm just outright delusional. I occasionally glimpse the true absurdity and scope of Memories of a Spy and think, what the fuck? How is any of this going to not constantly fall apart into a buggy disaster? But then I'm just like, I don't know. So far, so good. Okay, so those thoughts go through my head all the time. And then I put a GIF here. This is from Lahen. Lahaine. I think it's Lahen. It means like the hate. And it's this is the opening of the movie where he's telling a story about a guy who jumps from a building, and on his way down, he's saying, so far, so good, so far, so good. And then at the very end, he says, but it's not how you fall that matters, it's how you land. And then you see a Molotov cocktail hit the world. It's just like such a hard opening. It's so dope. This is kind of how I feel, because I do feel like I've leapt from a building and I'm plummeting to my death. And as I'm plummeting to my death, I'm going, so far, so good, so far, so good. That's what working on Memories of a Spy feels like. Because it's like, yeah, so far it works, and so far I've overcome these problems. But sometimes it's hard to look at Memories of a Spy as anything other than like pie in the sky, or like absolutely crazy. Like, I'm not even saying for me, I'm saying for the world, right? Like if somebody told me that this game existed, if somebody told me shit like Project Zomboid or Dwarf Fortress existed, I'd be like, that's crazy. But then when they tell you, well, they've been working on those games for 12 years or like 10 years, 15 plus 20 years, whatever. Then I go, that kind of makes sense. that type of thing sounds like outrageous and unachievable. So yeah, sometimes it feels like I've jumped off a building. That's what making Memories of Spy feels like sometimes. So hopefully I stick the landing, guys. Fingers crossed. Last 2 tweets. Here we go. So these are kind of exciting ones. Let me read these really quick. Where am I? Okay. Haha, good idea, Steven. Yeah, my mind goes off in weird directions like that when I'm making concrete, like autopilot mode. But I'll try the pen and paper approach. Yes, pen and paper and coffee or caffeine. Remember the caffeine is so important, and the going somewhere else is important. Don't be at home. Being at home does something weird to your brain. Be at a park, be at a cafe. Put yourself in a novel, different space. Dia says, this is all so complex. I'm glad I'm not making anything anymore. Yeah. Sometimes I envy people who are not making Memories of a Spy. Sometimes I look at people who are just kind of like doing literally anything other than making Memories of a Spy, and I go like, I wish I could be in your shoes. Rob Lang says, good on you for starting your own business, Gorman. That's awesome. Yes, I second that. Dio, not every game has to be this complex. Plenty of great games are simple to build. Steven is clearly feeding off the complexity. Yeah. No, I agree. Man, yeah, simple games sound so fun. I see people making games where like they iterate and shit, and they add new little features, and it's just kind of like little tweaks where it's like the game loop's done, and they just kind of add things, and I'm like, that looks like fucking fun. I was doing that with Dream Diver. When I finished Dream Diver, it was so fun to just like, oh, what if I add this item or add that dream and add this, and it was just like I was able to do it in like minutes, or like, the biggest ones were like it took me like a day or something, but it was like it was in after that, and it just worked, and it was like I love that feeling, and I miss it. I don't really get to do that very often with Memories of Spy. Memories of Spy, like I don't hit the play button very often. I did, or like right now I'm in the middle of a period of development where like it's a lot of under the hood shit, and it's just like if I press play right now, like I won't see anything happening, and I could say that's pretty much true for like the past like few weeks, but like there you hit a tipping point where like you add this one last thing, and then you hit play, and then you can see something really fucking crazy happen. Games don't need to be like that. You can make games that like actually have a shorter sort of loop in a simpler sort of framework. Hopelicious Luke says, a couple of happy faces. I tried making a game for 5 years, and then 6 months ago, I thought of it. I'm moving to Godot. I really got slowed down on coding patterns, so I have to recalibrate. Yeah, Godot looks dope. Godot looks super dope. I wish there was like a PlayMaker for Godot. Rob Lang, thanks very much. This is Gorman Studio saying thanks very much to Rob. I sold my shares in the company I worked for and basically have a year to make it work, but gotta roll the dice. It's exciting. Gorman Studios, that's fucking cool. If you have a year to work and 3 months have been up, I think those 3 months are important decompression months. I think that's fair. But I will say, let's call those decompression months completed. If you have a year to make this happen, like 8 months ahead of you is going to go by really, really fucking quick. Gorman, you should, if you're open to it, DM me. I'm down to like talk about shit to see if I can help in any way that's like very just high level kind of stuff. If I could point you in any direction, if you want to hop on a call at some point for just like 15, 20 minutes, if there's any kind of like way I can help. I love hearing when people are kind of going down this road, because I feel like when I've had the opportunities to be able to help people in the middle of these type of things, like it turns out to be very fruitful. I'll just say, if you want it, not pushing myself, but if you want to, send me a DM on Discord if you're interested in something like that. I admire you for that, Gorman. It's not something I could do. I have the business acumen. Acumen, is that how you say it? Of a potato. That's funny. Oh. All right, 2 more tweets. Here we go. This is the last one. So just recently I did a photo shoot with the homies. So I started mocking up posters for Memories of Spy. Promotional material in general, but I wanted to start with a poster. the poster would have elements that I can sort of rearrange into like a 16:9 thumbnail, a square promotional material, you know, a taller one, just all the different aspect ratios and all the different types of shapes and required like aspect ratios for like promotional images mostly. So I was like, to be fair, I used OpenAI privately to produce images that I then cut out. So I produced a bunch of like images of like spies and spy stuff in a globe and planes and stuff like that. And then I took them into Photoshop and I cut them out. And I arranged them. I photo warped the shit out of them, changed their colors, did a lot of just my own image manipulation on them. And I made this big collage of images in Photoshop that looked so sick. It was like, okay, this is kind of like, it was a mock-up for a Memories of a Spy poster. I was like, okay, so now what I need to do next is actually just go photograph that shit based off of this original mock-up and then make like the real one. And what I'm kind of thinking of, so we did this. So when I was doing this, I was like, we're going to shoot the photos and I'm going to see if they look cool as photos. And I'm going to see if they look cool as photos manipulated with like textures and filters and shit. And then at the very end, I'm going to see if I can hire a painter to take that thing and do an artist's rendition of the same poster, but just painted with like maybe like watercolor or oils. So here's what we had. Here's like a few of the mock-ups of the posters. So this is the first one. This is kind of like one of the main ones that I really dig. This is like the main idea that I originally started with, because like do I have it in here? I have a so like, yeah. See, so this image that you're seeing on screen right now is sort of like, you could see this one. There's like a little spy running on a world, and then there's all the buildings sticking off. And then I kind of made this one. It's like a globe, you know, with like all the lines around it, so it looks all very like draftman. You know, I really like the like draftsman kind of look, almost like it's rough, you know. And then do I have any? I mean, I had plenty of other things in here where it's just like, yeah, like I tried kind of like making my own versions of those like cutouts I told you about. And you know, like this, to try to make it like kind of rough and pulpy. Anyways, so yeah, this is the sort of like end result of that. I mean, there's still, I want to do a ton of work. This is still early, honestly. I want to try a bunch of different things, but yeah, essentially that's just my friend Ben over and over again. We photographed my friend Ben, went to the house, set up kind of like a little backdrop and some lights, and then he put on some cool suits. He had like a black tux and like a gray suit, gave him a tie and stuff. He had some nice shoes and a cool watch, because he's just styling. The homie Ben is just big time styling. And yeah, so we photographed him, and I kind of was just like, all right, so do a jump, bring your leg back, and I just kind of told him to do all these poses that, you know, are in those drafts, and to fake fight and stuff. And he's a fucking great performer. It's really funny because that's not his thing. He doesn't do that, but like he's a great performer. Yeah, he gets in all these cool poses and stuff. Let me see, open image. Can I get bigger? Yeah. So like you can see, can I make this? Yeah. Like this one down here, that's just him punching himself. We photographed him throwing a bunch of punches and taking a bunch of punches. And then he's doing all the poses here. A lot of the times, since this is photo manipulated to hell, like he's not even really holding a gun in these. It's just him doing the pose, and it's like, because of the photo manipulation, you can't really tell that he's not actually holding a gun, but it sells the idea. Got him like falling off the planet here, kind of doing a jump. Got him sneaking here, sneaking, and then the top one is kind of like the classic Bond thing, and yeah, so that's that one. And then, oh yeah, you got the buildings all around. So each of these are the sort of monuments that represent each of the cities in the game. Washington Monument, Big Ben, Eiffel Tower, the Berlin Alexanderplatz, Needle, the mosque in Morocco, and then the Kremlin. So there's that one. And then there's this one, which is like also like very similar, but kind of the obviously like the text is arranged a little differently. This is more like Mother. Like if you guys have ever played Earthbound, the O is the planet kind of thing. So that's me totally fucking taking a cue from one of my old favorite video games. That's nothing like Memories of a Spy, but like, what can I say? It's like it's the logo on my YouTube channel. That little planet, that's the Earthbound logo. Yeah, it's like Memories of a Spy. It's kind of getting there. I might want to change like how the A Spy is arranged down here, or maybe put it higher or do something different. Maybe change the scale of the A. There's like a lot of little touch-ups, but the idea is here. And it's like this just doesn't have the outline for it, right? It's on a red backdrop. It's a little less busy, right? The other one's like pretty busy. This one, there's like a lot going on here. It's not super pleasing on the eyes in some ways. But yeah, you can imagine like this one where it's like the text is this part, right? But it doesn't have this background. So there's all sorts of ways to sort of mix and match and cherry pick from like these different ones. I feel like the buildings here stand out a little bit better too. So there's that. And then there's this one. I really like this one too. Accidentally chopped off some of his nose here, but yeah, this one was cool because I was like, oh, the pose is so good. Like we caught such a good photo. Like you can even see like I just love the texture that these have. I put the halftone textures on here, so it does all those little stippling kind of dots the way like old prints used to be. But like the way it shows up on his hand, I just like tweak the contrast to these things, and yeah, I think this one turned out awesome. Kind of just like did a little inversion on how the text displays on his black and white suit and shirt. I fucking love this one. I would love to get these printed, I think that's it. There's several other iterations, but again, they're just in the Photoshop document. I didn't share them on Twitter. And the one thing is too, I want to do a photo shoot with a woman / femme presenting, however you want to say. So there could be somebody who identifies as a woman in here, because right now we just have like the male sort of suit, but I want like somebody in a dress, that's definitely needed. Got to have that in the poster. These are just early ones because I did a shoot one night with my friends in like a few hours. So there's that. Let me see. Holy shit. Dio says, I am also a potato. Gorman says, that's much appreciated, Steven. Do you know much about selling concrete plaques? Oh, well, I thought you were going to do like a gaming thing. I was putting myself out there as like if you're trying to make it work for gaming stuff. I was driving a bin lorry, garbage truck for 7 years, and I just thought, F this, I want to be happier, so concrete plaques. I remember you showed those. I think you shared pictures in the Discord, right, of the concrete plaques. I'm pretty sure you've shared stuff like that. Gorman, you need to go to the concrete plaque sellers convention. That's funny. Bro, I'd be the only one there. So that means Gorman needs to start the convention. I'm sure there's one other person in the world, gotta be. I love the globe. It fits the theme. It fits the theme with traveling around countries. Yeah, that's such a main component, right? It's like the interconnectedness of the world. Like the espionage is a global affair, and like that's such a main component of it. Love to see the sketches. I share mine too. I think it helps others to see how things began, often rough but evocative. Yeah, exactly, right? It's like that little globe is like very similar to how that turned out. It's just like circle, man on top, building sticking out, like that's what that came out to. There has to be 8 billion people. I haven't seen the same product yet though. I love the logo, very cool. Thank you. I think if I think that's what you're talking about for my shit. Gorman, have you tried hanging around the cemeteries? Been banned already, so dealing with people is a little difficult, but it's going well so far. That's interesting. Maybe integrate your game with your business. I've been thinking about making it a little ad in Blender. Oh, that could be cool. Like to outline the process to help customers understand that I can make custom plaques. Not sure what the game I can make though. Right. So, Gorman, earlier I was like, oh, is he taking a year off to do game stuff? My bad. You're right. I don't know shit about plaques. That's all you. That's all you, my man. So last tweet here is, this is how Memories of Spy is going. This was shared the other day. And this is just a little FSM because currently what I'm having set up, and it's actually, this is even outdated because now it's working. Yeah, there's some real juicy stuff I want to share, but like, I want to share it when it's all together because then that'll be even more of a shocking thing to show. Yeah, this FSM, what it does is it asks, should I use a definite or indefinite article? Does the word start with a vowel or a consonant? And at the very end, it'll tell you whether the word just before this, the article of the word that is being used in this sentence, should be a the, an un, or an a. And this is just for English. There's many other rules that other languages need to abide by, like feminine, masculine words. The article changes between languages. So that's what's happening in Memories of Spy right now. I will just say, just because I'm so stoked to like share it, is that like I have a system running that builds sentences in multiple languages that have dynamic sort of nouns. So like in a sentence that says like, hey, do you want... and then item, it's a dynamic thing that updates with the world, with the circumstances, and it's just one little dialogue function thing I can call that says ask if they want this thing, and whatever the situation is, whether it's somebody selling you something, whether it's a loved one that's eating a little bag of popcorn and says, do you want some, or blah, blah, blah. You know, there's so many situations in which somebody would say, do you want, and then object. It now dynamically builds it out. And I recorded with this mic a little test thing where I recorded all the words to build that sentences. And it's also not every single word. It's like portions of a sentence. Like the do you want is one sound file. And then the articles are each their own little individual sound files. So like un, and the. I recorded each of those separately. And then every object in the world will have its own sound file. So I just recorded a couple. I recorded omelet and shrimp cocktail. And so I had the system. That was one of the first times I've been able to press play in a long time. And I had it spit out a character saying, I want a shrimp cocktail. And it sounded pretty natural. And I was able to switch it to an omelet. And then when he said it, he's like, I want an omelet. And it's like the article was correct, you know, and it's like the sentence was there and it was based off of objects in the world. And it was just like, they talk, it spoke, they speak. That was a pretty exciting moment. So yesterday was hella hype for me. Hit some crazy milestones. There's still a lot of work to do to bring it all together. Like I said, showing you guys that, I'm sure you would flip out. It's fucking really funny to just like see a robot like build sentences. And just like say shit, and it's just like it's really cool. But because I don't have the characters saying them in this, because I haven't tied that system to like some of the AI stuff right now, it's sort of like a disembodied part of that. It's just disembodied. So I don't want to show any of that stuff yet because, like I said, I think it'll be more shocking and more fun to just like show you guys clips of the game where like all the things come in. You know, I'm not trying to finish the game before I share everything. I'm not trying to like get like so far into development before I share anything. I want to share things soon, but I'm at a point where a lot of the work I'm doing is under the hood. And I just want to reach this end point, this tipping point where I can hit play and see all of those systems happen together very seamlessly, because I think that the collection of those things happening together will be way fucking cooler. The sort of collection, the sum of the parts is greater than the individuals, and like I'm close. So to anybody who's like, you know, following along with the game, like I appreciate everybody's support, and you know, it's like I don't know what it's like too much to be super like, I don't think anybody's like bothered or like, you know, worried or anything about how long the game's taking, but I just want to say that like it's still going. I'm still, you know, putting a lot of time and energy in this thing. I still have other life things to do, you know, balancing this with the rest of my life. But Memories of a Spy is coming along, and it's coming along wildly. It's coming along very well. It's coming along like holy smokes. Like I can't believe I'm here. And I can't wait to share stuff with you guys. So I hope you can sit tight a little longer. Maybe we can have another one of these videos at a more intermittent sort of like sound cues. I teach a little bit of Blender in there, teach a little bit of like photo, texture, image making and stuff like that. Kit bashing, how to download things and repurpose it for yourself. It's a whole bunch of other shit. Game Jam Survival Guide. Highly recommend, you enter a game jam if you never have. It's a great learning experience. It forces you to make and finish something in a short period of time. So I have this little book, a little ebook I wrote. It's about 50 pages. Kind of goes through all the different phases of, entering a game jam and, how you could do it effectively, whether you're doing it solo or with a team. And then over here, I also have this project consultations. So if you've ever gotten stuck on anything or ever just, even if you're not, like if you've never even started, like if you're just a total beginner, you haven't touched anything, but you just want to like sit down and talk with somebody who actually like knows what they're doing and can put you in the right direction and can just teach you just one-on-one, that's what this is. So consider this product here as like, I'm a personal instructor, right? Like I could just sit down with you and tell you exactly how to do what you want to do. It's all based off of your goals. I will sort of construct the best possible, most condensed and effective like learning experience for you for the amount of time that we have together. So it's based off of an hour. It's $50 for an hour, which I think is a very fucking reasonable rate, by the way, considering how much free consultation stuff I do. But this is just, if you respect my time and you're like, hey, you know what? Like I see you out there helping folks, and you want some more of my time, more like thorough kind of one-on-one stuff, this is a great way to support me as well. So this whole page, if you dig what I'm doing, hit this up, grab a course, maybe buy an hour of time with me. It helps me to keep doing all this Memories of a Spy shit, because goddamn, man, like I would love to play this game already. It's fun as hell making it, but I also can't wait to play it. Yeah, so I think that's, let's see, what do we have here? Geez, good luck with German. Yeah, there's some weird stuff with German. Okay, bros, I'm out. Steven, you're a very good talker. Also, when will you get back to video making? Your early PlayMaker videos are dynamite. Have you abandoned stylistic video making forever? I haven't abandoned the stylistic video making forever. I think that's reserved for like the devlogs. The devlogs, I still love, getting creative with them. Like the devlogs, I have a lot of fun making. That's why the style changes up. I mean, if you remember, like there was one episode where like I dressed up in a suit and tie, and then there's another episode where it's all like dev stream stuff, and then another episode where it's like more philosophical ramblings and screenshotty kind of stuff. But I love doing the stylized stuff for devlogs. So that, I don't think it's over, but I am more focused right now on getting the stuff, getting the game made. So it's a little less frequent to see the video production side of things. Yeah, so thanks everybody for tuning in, and take care of yourselves. I hope you have a very nice, chill rest of your day. If you're going to sleep, have a very good night, get some good rest. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Eat right, and don't go too crazy on booze or dope, any of those drugs or stimulants. Even the coffee, I recommended coffee earlier, but I'm like, don't do that all the time. Yeah, spend time with the people you love. So your friends and family, make sure you're getting in time, hanging around those people, get in your social time. Even if you identify as an introvert, you could be in the same room with the person. You don't have to talk with them. Just go sit on the couch next to your family or your friends. It'll do your soul some good, and it'll help keep you energized. Like I said, even for introverts, we are social animals, and yeah, just get out of your head, and yeah. So take care of yourselves, guys. Laker Mouse says, thanks for sharing your amazing talents. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that, man. I hope you're good. I hope all of you are good. But I hope Laker Mouse is especially good. More than everybody else. Everybody else gets thrown under the bus. I'm just kidding. I hope everybody's good. All right. Catch me on Twitter. subscribe to the Discord, buy my fucking courses, bros. All right, I'm out of here.